I can't hear the music.
Basketball's greatest rebound and rebuild with a championship.
If you're going to war and I'm coaching, I'm taking these guys.
Baylor, kings of college basketball, #1 in the land, and the trophy is coming to Waco.
Baylor, one of the great turnarounds in college athletics history, national champions in year 18 for Scott Drew.
Our fans that have been with us for the lean years, the good years, and our administration, President Livingstone, Mac Rhodes, they all deserve this. The city of Waco deserves this. Hey, Texas, we got a national championship too. The state deserves it.
Did I stutter?
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
The 2011 winner of the Heisman Trophy is Robert Griffin III, RG3!
Welcome to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Langoliers, base hit to center, and the Baylor Bears win their first Big 12 tournament championship.
Their fat little girlfriends are telling them what they want to hear, which is how great you are.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Yep, just ready for OU.
You can't handle the truth.
Here's Drake Toll.
And welcome into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den remote. Happy Jersey Thursday, everybody. As it's known in Guam, Thursday, but as we know it here at Up Tempo, it is Jersey. We're rocking it out today with Baylor men's tennis in the NCAA Elite 8 taking on TCU for the 4th time this season. Baylor athletics at 100% capacity, and on top of that, baseball, Oklahoma. Tonight, the series starts. Softball on the road in Gainesville, Florida. And got a big show for you today to prepare for it all. You got Steve Rodriguez joining the show later on. Morgan Uber is going to join the show from the Big 12. And Luke Gilbert, starting left fielder for Baylor, will also be on. Call us, text us, 254-339-1122. The phone lines are open today. Hey, Rob, happy Thursday. How are we feeling today? I mean, it's a good Thursday. A bunch of Baylor teams are in action this weekend and in action today, too.
It's a great day to be a Baylor fan. I'm excited because I didn't realize baseball had more home games. We get to play on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, so that's exciting. And then Friday is a foam finger night, so I'm definitely going to go Friday and get that foam finger.
Yeah, sick the Sooners.
Grab me one, too. I too, would love a foam finger. On top of that, you got baseball, Oklahoma. What we're going to talk about at the top of the show, we got, like I said, Steve Rodriguez joins us, Morgan Uber joins us, and outside of that, you got Luke Gilbert, starting left fielder for Baylor, also coming on today. It's Jersey. I got my Valonia Eagle. This is a jersey I was given my senior year of high school baseball jersey, celebrating a little Valonia alongside Baylor as well today. With this, we've got baseball, softball, women's golf, men's tennis that are all still in action. We're going to cover the ceiling and the floor for each of those spring teams. Before we get to that, kind of recapping who's in action and where they are. You got men's tennis is in Orlando right now. They are taking on TCU today at 1 o'clock Central Time. So that will be a live feed, a live stream for that game. You can go to Baylor Men's Tennis on Twitter. You can find all that information and watch Baylor Men's Tennis compete against TCU for the 4th time this year. A match preview a little bit. You got TCU coming in, who has not played near as many games as Baylor, although these teams have met, like I said, now this will be the 4th time. TCU got the best of Baylor on the indoor. Baylor beat TCU twice at the Herd in the outdoors, struggled in the Big 12 championship tournament in the semifinal against TCU. It's a team they know really well, but it's going to be a tight one in Orlando today as Baylor men's tennis tries to advance to the Final Four, where they've been before. They won a championship in 2005, and a lot of the analysts I've spoken to say this Baylor team better than the one in 05, deeper, more senior laden, and Baylor's got a chance to. They were the 2 seed that year, I believe, as well. They got a chance to make some noise in Orlando. You got softball. They're in action tomorrow against South Alabama. Florida plays South Florida tomorrow as well. Those are afternoon games. Baylor plays at 3:30 Central Time on ESPN3. South Florida is at 1 o'clock Central Time on ESPNU. Baylor plays either the winner or the loser of that one. We're going to get to a preview of that matchup as well pretty soon. Baylor softball 27-1. And then Baylor baseball tonight against Oklahoma. Oklahoma is now one of the better Big 12 teams. They did get the best of the Bears earlier this season. Blue Bell Classic up in Dallas. They beat Baylor 9-3. OU's not bad by any means whatsoever. But it's kind of like if you take where Oklahoma was kind of supposed to be this season and where Baylor was supposed to be, and you just flip them. Like Oklahoma started a little bit slower, and then just by the middle of the season said, we're done. We're good. We're just going to go ahead and clock out. It's been great fun. See you guys later. So Baylor's really taken that spot, playing better baseball in the Big 12. Oklahoma has regressed. Those two teams meet in Waco. I don't have Baylor sweeping this weekend. I don't. I have Baylor actually taking 2 out of 3 over OU. I can't really pinpoint where that series is going to favor Oklahoma in which game. But I like, if I had to predict it right now, Baylor to win tonight, lose tomorrow, and likely win again on Saturday in their last game at Baylor Ballpark. Baylor's 22-4. 22-4 at Baylor Ballpark. So they're coming back home tonight where they play their best baseball. We'll talk to Steve Rodriguez today. We asked Luke Boyd about it yesterday. He said just playing at home. The comfortability of playing at home has helped those guys so much. So outside of that, 100% capacity, not just for baseball, but also football going into next season. Everything's done. This is the last weekend of home sports in Waco. That's crazy to think. This is the last weekend of home sports in Waco. But after this, all said and done, and you're rock and rolling into looking for next football season with 100% capacity in McLean. I mean, things are going back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, I think 100% capacity at McLean is going to be ridiculous. It's going to feel like our freshman year. It's going to be back to what we know, and I think fans being there's so many big home games with OU, UT, Iowa State. Those are going to be sellout crowds. It's going to really feel like it's normal, and I'm so excited.
They better win some early ones though, because otherwise it'll be like my freshman year where we went 1-11 and the stadium usually emptied out somewhere in the second quarter. I
don't know why, but I have a feeling about me that this football team that we're building, there's a lot of good pieces here, and I think we're going to make a bowl game. That's my
the defense prediction. The defense is going to win us some games, so I think it's going to go a lot better than my freshman year. I'm just saying, hopefully we win some early ones and build some momentum.
If we can figure out the QB situation, I think this team is poised to go potentially 7 wins, maybe 8 wins. So we'll see.
That'll be a big topic of conversation over the course of the offseason this year, especially on how Baylor football is going to look. There are a lot of years where you kind of know what you're going to get going into a season, and I think this year is not that, especially offensively with the quarterback battle, Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to get, I opened up an up-tempo mailbag on the SicEm365 forum at SicEm365.com, and I was asking folks, hey, listen, what are some of your questions with these spring sports? Where do you see these spring sports finishing? What do you want to know? I mean, I've done a lot of research on some of these teams and feel like I know a pretty good amount about each of them. And somebody said, hey, listen, give us a ceiling or a floor. As a lot of these schools, a lot of these programs, I should say, go into the postseason, I mean, where are they supposed to be? Who's going to win a national championship? Who has no shot? And what are you looking at with each sport remaining? So I will say, I want to check off the list right now. You've got men's golf and women's tennis. Those teams both out. Men's golf lost in Stillwater. We talked about it. University of Arkansas Little Rock hit 6 birdies to take I say 6. They all birdied on the 18th hole. I think it's 5 birdies, all birdied on the 18th hole to beat Baylor men's golf in Stillwater and take that top 5 spot. Their season is done. when I looked at, Cooper Dawsey coming into this season and Baylor golf, the experience they had, I had a lot higher expectations for that team, and they underperformed. They did not end up where they should have been this season. They were a legitimate, in my opinion, a top 10 team most of this year. And in the beginning of the year, their rankings reflected that, being a top 20 team. And things just, golf's a volatile game. It's any course, any given Saturday or weekday or whenever they play it. And they lost it in Stillwater. So Baylor men's golf is out. Baylor women's tennis, they got a sweep of Corpus Christi in round 1 in the Waco Regionals. They got to open the first 2 rounds, the NCAA tournament at home. They swept Corpus Christi, got a really tough draw against Duke. Alex Gruskin said it yesterday. Baylor women's tennis was slighted a little bit by the committee when Duke had to come to town and play against your Lady Bears in Waco. And that was reflective in the fact that Duke won 4-3 in a really tough, it was a hard-fought, tough, close match. Duke got the best of the women's tennis team in the end. So that's recapping the 2 spring sports that have wrapped up as of right now, and moving into ceiling and floor. And Rob, I want your opinion. I want you to help me out on these ceiling and floor for each team as they head into the postseason. I'm going to start at softball. So softball's got a game at 3:30 tomorrow against South Alabama on ESPN3. That's in the Gainesville Regional. They've got number 4 Florida, the number 4 team in the country. Florida's the 1 seed right now in the Gainesville Regional, taking on 4 seed South Florida. Baylor's 2 seed taking on 3 seed South Alabama. Mind you, South Alabama beat Alabama earlier this season. Montana Fouts and Alabama. It's not a bad team at all. Like, a lot of folks see that like, Troy or South Alabama or Arkansas State or UTSA or Texas State, and they're like, it's a small school. James Madison. But a lot of these small schools have solid softball programs. Maybe not all the ones I listed, but there are a lot of teams that can scrounge up. Look at Lafayette. Lafayette makes the World Series every other year. It seems like James Madison's pretty similar as well. Baylor, South Alabama. South Alabama beat Alabama. I'm worried about game 1. I'm worried already in game 1. South Alabama's got a solid pitcher. Baylor has Gia Rodoni in the circle and Sydney Holman-Manziel, but Gia Rodoni has not looked like this year what she looked like in 2017 during the College World Series run. You expect your 6th-year senior to come back, but so much in the game of softball can change in the span of 4 years. So you got somebody that comes in year number 1. It's a pitcher's game. Year number 1, Paige Lowry's lighting things up. One pitcher in the country is throwing 72, but when she's throwing 72, it's just blowing it by everybody. And if you got a great pitcher, if you got a Gia Rodoni, you're winning games. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, the entire realm of college softball has changed in the fact that, now every pitcher's throwing 70+, and every hitter has seen 70+, the point where that's what they're hitting in practice against. Folks have caught up to it. The hitting in the game of softball and collegiate softball has become so clutch. At this point, there are fewer and fewer one-hit shutouts and more big bomb games where teams are scoring 10+ runs. And Baylor's offense is just not there yet. We've seen sparks of that, but they were shut out against Texas. They put up a couple against Oklahoma. But, you got your Lou Gilberts, you got your Emily Hotz, you got Taylor Ellis, you've got Goose McGlawn, Aaliyah Binford. That 5 right there is really your core in the batting lineup. But outside of that, there's quite a few question marks. And even in that 5, there have been question marks this season. I think if I've got to predict it right now, my ceiling for Baylor, look at the years that they've made it to the World Series. They're always a scrappy team that nobody really sees coming. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Baylor is a World Series caliber team, because I don't think they are. I think injuries have a big part of that, and why that is. My ceiling right now for Baylor, Coach Moore knows Tim Walton of Florida. He knows this team well. These 2 teams know each other well. I've got Baylor, best case scenario, knocking off South Alabama. Baylor losing to Florida in the next game. That's going to drop Baylor back down to probably either play South Alabama or South Florida. I've got Baylor winning that one, going to the championship of the Gainesville Regional, winning game 1 against Florida on the arm of Gia Rodoni, falling in game 2. I think the ceiling for Baylor softball this season, where they've injury-ridden, not the year that people would have expected. They're 27-1 right now. I think the highest, the ceiling for Baylor softball right now is to go to the championship in their regional. Where is the floor? Well, the floor is pretty obvious with this one.
Yeah.
The floor is you're playing South Alabama, who beat Alabama. They beat you. Then you go to play in the losers bracket against South Florida. South Florida's been to the World Series in the last decade. South Florida is not a bad softball program. They're no slouches. Then you lose to South Florida. I mean, I've seen plenty of teams. I saw Arkansas do it a couple years ago where they're in a regional and they lose game one. Then they're playing some weird South Dakota State team and they get beaten that one too. And then there you are, you're home. So ceiling, I've got Baylor winning a game against Florida, going to the regional championship, but Florida eventually advancing to the super regional. Floor, Baylor's out into, you lose your last, I think that'd be losing the last 8-9 games of the season to end this thing, wrap it up, go into next season, and reload, prepare for hopefully better competition next year.
Yeah, I don't see this Baylor softball team making a lot of noise. I've actually been kind of keeping up with it a bit through their Twitter page because I don't have access to their TV, but I know you personally have a ton of time invested into this team. And I think your analysis is pretty spot on. I think the floor is obvious. We lose both the games at the start. And then the ceiling, I just don't see us really getting past that Florida team. I mean, in best case scenario, we get past the Florida team and then end up getting just destroyed in the next round. I just don't think this is a well-rounded enough team that can win series, 3-game series after, back-to-back-to-back. So, I'm hopeful. I'm gonna keep checking with the Twitter, but I don't see this team making a ton of noise in the postseason.
I will say on that note, if Baylor is able to make the super regional, the way that I think it looks this year for COVID, I think they would have to play it in Gainesville against that 13 seed. The 13 seed is Duke. I'm not really worried about Duke out of the ACC. The ACC is not a great softball conference. I do think the Washington team that was pissed about being 16 seed, they could have been seeded 13 instead of Duke. So I think if Baylor makes it to the Super Regional, if they can go to a Super Regional, they've got a vague shot at going to the College World Series because Duke doesn't scare me near as much as Arizona did when Baylor went to Arizona and won, or near as much as Georgia did when Baylor went to Georgia and won. This Baylor team's scrappy. If they can find their way out of the Florida Regional, the Gainesville Regional, this team can go to the World Series. Past that, though, it's going to be a struggle. A lot of top teams. Moving over to Baylor baseball. Ceiling for Baylor baseball. Beginning of the year, I would have told you, not as an optimist, not as a pessimist, but as a realist, that Baylor baseball would not win 30 games on the season. They likely wouldn't make the postseason. They had a pretty dismal, the pitching, I liked the pitching, but it had been inconsistent. There were some guys that I was like, all right, how good are they going to do this year? The bats were young. The bats were kind of unproven, especially coming out of last year. Well, I was wrong. If I had told you that, I wish we had a video of me saying that somewhere on air. I would have been wrong. So wrong. The 30-16 right now, 22-4 at home. So 7-10 away, 1-2 at neutral sites. That's what's going to hurt them because they're not going to play at home in the postseason. But Baylor baseball, I think their ceiling right now, the ceiling, best case scenario for Baylor baseball, you sweep Oklahoma. It'd be their first conference sweep this season. They had a chance against Kansas State, and they blew it. They had a chance against Kansas. They had a chance against Texas Tech. They had a chance against West Virginia. Couldn't complete sweeps there. Great team sweep. Good teams don't get swept. Baylor hasn't swept yet. Best case scenario, they walk through Oklahoma and sweep the Sooners in Waco for their first conference sweep. At that point, they'd be 33-16, 25-4 at home. That bolsters your resume. You're getting in the postseason at that point for Baylor baseball, no question about it. Then it becomes a game of where do you play. Big 12 championship-wise, I think Baylor's got a legit shot to make it to the semifinal of the Big 12 championship. They've got, a lot of teams play their conference tournament very weird. I'm not going to say that Baylor's a guaranteed lock to win the Big 12 championship or even win a couple of games, but you really never know in conference tournaments. I'd almost not want Baylor to win that. They need to rest up a little bit, just a little bit more. So I would like Baylor. I'd like to see Baylor probably be one of the Final Four in that Big 12 championship tournament. Maybe even go to the championship game, but probably bow out without using up too much or exerting too much. And all along that, I think the best case scenario ceiling-wise for Baylor is to be put in a regional with East Carolina, with Ole Miss, with Louisiana Tech, which I don't know why Ole Miss is still in the conversation of hosting, but they are for some strange reason at division1baseball.com. But give me Ole Miss. Let me switch over here. Louisiana Tech, Stanford, Florida State. I think best case scenario, Baylor baseball, East Carolina, Ole Miss, Louisiana Tech, Stanford, Florida State. If they go to one of those regionals, they got a shot. Here's what it's going to take, though, to go to one of those. The problem with Baylor baseball is the teams that are going to go to those 4 or 5 regionals are the teams that are ranked in the 16 to 24 range in college baseball. Baylor's not there yet. Baylor's not even, their RPI is crawling closer and closer there, but Baylor's going to need to be a ranked team. They're going to need to impress in the last week or so of the season to be able to bolster the resume enough to make it into one of those regionals. If they do not, if the NCAA does what the NCAA usually does and puts teams with a school or a squad near them, they're going to have to go to Fayetteville. They're going to have to go to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. They're going to have to go to Knoxville to play Tennessee. They're going to have to go to Eugene to play Oregon. And in those cases, Baylor baseball is looking at an uphill battle, an uphill climb that's going to be much, much tougher than going to a La Tech, which I know Ruston's tough to play in, but I have a lot more confidence for Baylor at La Tech than I do in Fayetteville. I have a lot more confidence for Baylor in over at Stanford than I do for Baylor playing against Tennessee. A lot more confidence for Florida State. So Baylor's got to bolster that resume. Ceiling is they get into that regional with Stanford. They get into a regional with Florida State, a regional with Ole Miss. They win their regional. I think Baylor's got legitimate regional championship aspirations, and I could see it. That's not even me being an optimist. That's me being a realist. Baylor could make one of those regionals, win a regional, move on to the super regional. At that point, you're looking at who you're playing. Are you playing Vanderbilt? Are you playing Tennessee? Are you playing Arkansas? Are you playing Texas Tech? If you are, Baylor baseball is in trouble. But if you're not, say somebody upsets them in there. You get a random team like a UC Irvine, a Michigan, an Arizona State comes out of nowhere in one of those regionals, and then you're playing them in the super regional. Baylor's got a shot. I think Baylor right now, ceiling for me would be... Stealing for me, Baylor baseball is to make a super regional. I don't think they're a World Series caliber team, not yet this year. I think floor for me, Baylor baseball loses 2 out of 3 against Oklahoma, loses out in 2 in the goes 1-2 in the Big 12 championship, goes to the Fayetteville regional, loses their first game against, we'll say, Dallas Baptist, and then loses their second game to whoever. I don't think they're getting out of the Fayetteville regional. I've got ceiling being Baylor finishes the season as a 40-plus win team and goes to super regional. Floor being they lose the series to Oklahoma, lose out quickly in the Big 12 championship, and go 0-for in a Fayetteville or a Nashville region.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. I had such low aspirations for this team when they went 1-for-3 against UT Rio Grande Valley. So that was kind of my measuring stick at the start of the season. I was like, wow, this team could not win the series versus UT Rio Grande. I was a little bit concerned. Then we lost 2 out of 3 at the Round Rock. My hopes for this team were so low, but they've kind of built something here. They're peaking at the right time. The Kansas State wins were dominant. They won 1 away at OSU, a tough place to play. I think this team is trending in the right direction. I think that if they can win 2 out of 3 at OU, I think they absolutely have the aspirations to make a super regional. I don't know if they can get out of the super regional, but I think they can make it depending on the matchups. And obviously the floor would just be OU comes into Waco and sweeps us. We do horrible at the Big 12 championship, and we get seeded against your Arkansas or another team that's just going to beat the door off us. So I honestly do think, though, if I'm just giving my own opinion, that we have absolute chance to make the super regional based on how we're playing right now. I think baseball is one of those sports that it's how you need to peak at the right time. You can't just carry with your record. So I have pretty high aspirations for this team. I think they're at least going to make a run in the regional, and I think they really could make the super regional.
I think it all comes down to who they are pit against in the postseason. So Baylor baseball, that's what it'll be. On to, so that's baseball. Baseball, softball checked off. Let's go to women's golf now. The women's golf team was number 1 in the country at one point. When they went to Gamecock Intercollegiate, they were number 1 in the country. That Gamecock Intercollegiate is one of the tougher, more really, it's a highly touted golf tournament in collegiate golf. And Baylor ended up finishing in 11th place at the Gamecock Intercollegiate. Now, that's not bad when you compare to the teams they're playing against, but to be the number one team in the country, everybody thinks you're number one, and to place 11th at such a big golf tournament, dropped them to number 8 in the country. They headed to Mountain View. They took 5th at the Mountain View Collegiate. That was tough. Baylor women's golf then tied for 9th at the Ping ASU Invitational. So then you go to Big 12 play. Baylor finishes third in the Big 12 championship tournament. To me, Baylor women's golf at one point this season they were the kings. I mean, they'd won 5 tournaments. They were going to win a national championship. They were a favorite for a national championship, number 1 in the country. They've it's a downward trend since then for Baylor women's golf, placing 3rd of the Big 12 championship when I thought they could have won the Big 12 championship. They were the number 1 team in the country. At one point in time this season, they were better than anybody else. They had a legit shot to win the Big 12 championship. Couldn't pull it off. They finished 11th, the Gamecock Intercollegiate. I think that was telling. 5th place finish at Mountain View was telling. Baylor then gets a 3 seed in the NCAA postseason. I was worried about them in the regional. And let me say this as well. There's a lot of volatility in golf. When you go to the national championship, who knows who's going to place where? Ceiling for me, Baylor was number 1 this season. They've still got a shot to be somewhere in that conversation to win a national championship. They could win a national championship. Ceiling for me is a top 5 finish in the NCAA tournament and a possible national championship if Gerline Core and company really pick it up. Floor, I don't know if Baylor can show up to the championship, but if they continue that downtrend, they can show up but not show out and fall pretty flat in women's golf. So I got ceiling for women's golf this season. Give me national championship aspirations, top 5 finish the NCAA championship. Floor right now showing up, laying a dud, finishing in that bottom 10 range. There's 24 teams that make it, finishing in that 15 to 20 range for Baylor women's golf. Rob, I know you're a big golf guy. Anything to add right there?
I've played golf. Golf is a game of how you're feeling that day. How's the ball bouncing for you? What's the wind like? If you're in the championship, you can finish first or last. I think in collegiate women's golf, skill is a big part of it, but you also got to get a little lucky. You got to have the bounce working for you. You got to sink big putts. You drive for show, but you putt for dough. So I think it's important that we recognize that golf is such a teetering sport in the fact that the team can shoot really well one day, but then they get unlucky with a couple water hazards, and the team can play poorly but get a couple great hole-in-one bounces. So it's kind of hard to say. If they're in the championship, I really think, from what you said, they have the chance to win, but golf is one of those sports, it's just however the ball is bouncing.
Outside of women's golf, last but not least, obviously not least, the number 1 team in the country in the ITA rankings, the Baylor men's tennis team. This ceiling, without a doubt, not being an optimist again, I'm being a realist. Baylor men's tennis has national championship hopes. Alex Gruskin told us on this show, he said, listen, now that North Carolina is out, now that North Carolina has lost out of this tournament and they're no longer there with the possibility of playing Baylor, there's not another team in the country that can go toe-to-toe with the Bears and give them a run for their money and win 4 points against Baylor. North Carolina swept Oklahoma State, played Georgia, and North Carolina is a much better team, in my opinion, than Georgia, and lost 4-3 in a tough battle. I think Georgia's going to beat Tennessee. Georgia's going to go to the Final Four. History. The history of Georgia tennis is wild. Baylor, TCU today. Ceiling is Baylor beats TCU to go to the national semifinal. They played Georgia. Baylor would be heavy favorites against both Georgia and Tennessee, no matter who wins that. Today's match is going to be tough. I got Baylor getting out of it. Baylor plays Georgia. Baylor beats Georgia in the semifinal. Baylor in the national championship. Florida is going to beat Texas A&M. USC, I think USC Texas is close. Give me USC with the slight nod right there. Give me USC on top. USC Florida, the national championship. While I would love to play USC, they've already lost this season to Illinois. I think it's going to be Florida Baylor national championship. That's a 1-2 matchup. Give me the Bears. I don't see another team in this country. Alex Gruskin said it. They can take 4 away from Baylor. Give me Baylor men's tennis for the national championship over Florida. That comes up this Saturday. So Baylor could win a national championship. That's the ceiling for men's tennis right now. You have Adrian Boiton, Matias Soto, Konstantin Franzen, Sven Law. The list of those guys just goes on. Charlie Broom, that have been so good under Michael Woodson this season. The floor, however, TCU has already beaten Baylor. Granted, it was indoor. Michael Woodson feels like his guys play much better outdoors. But the floor, TCU's good. TCU very well could punch their ticket to the Final Four today by knocking off Baylor in Orlando. That is at 1 p.m. Central Time. That match is going to take place while we're on the show today. And if TCU comes out and wins the doubles point, Baylor won the doubles point in the indoor and lost the match overall. TCU takes a doubles point, then things get hairy. Baylor struggled against TCU in the singles in the Big 12 championship tournament. I think it's going to be a tight match. Tough to beat a team 3 times. Ceiling national championship over who I believe they'll play Florida. Floor losing today to TCU, and Baylor's tennis season is done.
I think you mentioned some really big threats. I mean, TCU obviously has beat us, but to me it feels a lot like 05. We have only dropped, one game in this entire tournament so far? Was it 2 sweeps, and then we lost 1 game to Ole Miss? I mean, we're playing great tennis right now. You know, I don't know how TCU's gotten to this point. We have experience against them. It's a rivalry game. The guys are going to be fired up. Michael Woodson, great coach. You know, I have a lot of faith in this team. I really think that national championship should be the goal. I mean, it should be for every sport, but I think it's a very obtainable goal for the men's tennis team. And I think if we beat TCU, I mean, your point makes a lot of sense, where if we beat TCU, it's kind of, we're a huge favorite in the next couple of games. So it's really get past TCU, and we'll see. I think, I mean, the two scenarios in my head is we either lose to TCU today or we beat TCU and win the national championship.
I think so too. I think it gets easier to me. It does, rankings-wise. You get Tennessee and Georgia. It gets easier in the national semifinal. I think Baylor wins today. They punch a ticket to the national championship. All eyes will be on that one. I'm excited to watch Michael Woodson and Baylor tennis in a national championship this Saturday. I mean, that's just cool to think about. Cool to say. And they got a shot. So there it is. There's the ceiling and floor for baseball, softball, women's golf, and men's tennis, the 4 teams that are still alive. I mean, by the time we come Monday, there may be only 2 more teams. I guess it'd be baseball and women's golf that are still alive. So cherish Baylor sports while you got them this spring, because things are really winding down. I do want to let you know, first hour of SicEm365's Up Tempo is brought to you by Banson Business Services, owned by Baylor grad and SicEm365 premium member Jonathan Green. Banson Business Services offers a full suite of business support and financial services. Banson specializes in bookkeeping, payroll, outsource CFO services, consulting, and they can help you with your taxes. Their business helps you run your business. Visit SicEm365.com/Banson for more information. All right, when we come back from this break, we got a Jack's Minute. Then we're going to rock and roll with Coach Steve Rodriguez, who joins the show and talks to us about Baylor baseball going into their series tonight against Oklahoma. After Coach Rodriguez, Lou Gilbert, the starting left fielder for Baylor softball, all Big 12, second team in softball this season, talks about the Gainesville Regional, where 27-1 Baylor tries to make some noise against South Alabama, South Florida, and Florida to make a super regional. We come back at Steve Rodriguez, followed by Lou Gilbert. I'm Drake Toll. We got Andrew Robertson and Jack McKenzie coming to you from the studio. We come back talking more Baylor sports. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
Today's the day for Baylor men's tennis. Michael Woodson and his team meet TCU for the 4th time this season, with the stakes higher than ever as a trip to the Final Four is on the line. First serve for the match is scheduled for 1 o'clock Central Time in Orlando, Florida. The Bears have gotten the best of the Frogs in the team's 2 outdoor matches this season after falling in the indoor, but anything can happen in Orlando. Live stat feed and video feed will be available online and can be found on the Baylor Tennis Twitter page. And Nikki Cullen has landed another hire for her staff, as Michael Mata will join the Lady Bears next season as the assistant AD for operations. He was previously the director of operations at Dartmouth College. Apart from the hire, Moon Urson and Trinity Oliver have entered the transfer portal, with Chrislyn Carr headed to Syracuse. Elsewhere in the nation, Duke has hired an athletic director in Nina King. She joined the department in September of 2008 and will become the first woman to serve as Duke's athletic director and the 3rd black woman to lead a Power 5 department. In men's basketball, Texas Tech has added transfer Sadar Calhoun from Florida State, and Oklahoma State has landed transfer Bryce Thompson from Kansas. And reports have surfaced that the SEC sent schools $23 million each to make up for financial losses because of COVID-19. The conference estimates each school will lose $45 million from athletics due to the pandemic. And the NCAA Division I Council plans to act on legislative proposals next month that would allow athletes to be paid to be sponsors, social media influencers, and product endorsers. This is a major step in the direction of college athletes being paid. Also, Baylor events are now at 100% capacity. Go out and watch a baseball game this weekend. I'm Jack McKenzie in for Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Jack's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Pay over qualified buyer with $4,000 down at 2.9% TTL extra. See deal for details.
Travel is back, and so are the savings of the Memorial Day Savings Event at Richard Carr. Save $5,900 on 2021 Buick Encore. Drive off in the affordable luxury of a Buick Encore for as little as $258 a month. Or vacation in the spacious comfort of a 3-row Buick Enclave and save $8,500. 100% credit approval is always our goal. It's the Memorial Day Savings Event going on now at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Cynthia, Jesus died for our Cynthias.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Julia Roberts. Julia Rob.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll.
All right, welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Drake Toll back with Coach Steve Rodriguez, the Baylor baseball program. His squad's hot. His squad's playing well at the right time, too, as they roll near postseason play. But, Coach, as I'm sure you would say, you're not there yet. It's not postseason time yet, and why even talk about it?
Well, that's exactly right. It's always fun to talk about because that's everybody's goal is to be able to get to postseason. And, I think that's one of the reasons why you play and you compete as hard as you do is to be able to get to that crown jewel toward the end. And, it's hard. It's always fun to see those things and focus on them. But at the same time, we have a lot of business to worry about in these next couple of weeks before we get to that.
Coach, I think it was on ESPN Plus. I heard the other day during the home series against Kansas State, you uttered the words, "We're going to take it day by day, game by game." Did you come up with that?
It was fine on Monday.
It's one of my favorite cliches, and I'm not a cliche guy. I'm not, and I hate using it. But the way college baseball is now with the pandemics and isolations and protocols and quarantines, like you literally have to do it that way because you don't know after every testing cycle what's going to happen. And so you want to make sure that your guys are prepared for that game and that game alone. And then we worry about the next one that next day.
Coach, I want to take you back to this past weekend. You got Oklahoma State on the road, and that's one of the tougher places to play, especially in that new ballpark in Stillwater. Game one, you guys get down it seems almost insurmountable. In baseball, you get down like that early, and a lot of times teams will shut down and look forward to Saturday's game, but you fight them back all the way to tie things up late in the ball game, take it to extra innings. Talk about really the resiliency of your team to claw through that game on Friday.
Well, and I actually told our guys that exact same thing. We did not play well defensively. I think we made like a season high 6 errors. That was very, very uncommon for our defense. And our guys were just kind of like, what's going on? And it wasn't anything. It was just kind of like weird hops and just kind of stuff like that. And some really interesting things just kind of happened. Some of them were obviously our fault. But, it happened. But I told our guys, when you make that many errors, and you're able to take a really good team like Oklahoma State into extra innings and be able to keep pushing it to the point where literally one at-bat, one swing could give us the lead or give us the win. And we just couldn't get it. And I thought our guys just did a great job fighting through a lot of that. Especially in, like you said, like $75 million stadium, brand new ballpark. They're at 100% capacity. And it was a fun environment. It really was.
Looking at that night too, Luke Boyd comes into some pretty hairy situation there late in the game. I've got to ask, is this Luke Boyd's world and we're just all kind of living in it?
I'll tell you what, he's pretty fun to watch go pitch. I'll tell you what, it's really fun to have him in our bullpen and not someone else's. He goes out there regardless of what the score is, and he treats every inning, every pitch like he should as a closer. And that for me is one of the great things. He doesn't go out there if we might be up by a lot and kind of go through the motions. He pretends it's a 1-run ball game and it's his job to close it. And he takes a lot of pride in what he's doing out there, which is a great thing for a lot of our younger guys to see because that's how a professional behaves.
Coach, I don't want you to give away too much strategy here either, but looking at like a la Madison Bumgarner when he pitched all 7 games of the World Series that one year, how do you plan to use Boyd throughout, more key games and into the postseason? Could he see more innings or is he really in just that 1-2 inning closer role?
It really just depends on the day, where we are in whatever series we're playing, whether it's a conference tournament or like this weekend against Oklahoma. We let him kind of help us make that decision. Like I always have goals in regards to what I want, like last year when we were down in the Shriners Classic and we had the LSU and Arkansas and Missouri games, I was going to give him the 3rd day off against Arkansas. And he's like, no, I feel good. I'm pitching in this game. And so, for us to hear that, we allow him to have an input in that. It's not like, hey, here's how we're going to use you, and this is like the trump card on everything. It's not that at all. We want him. If he doesn't feel right, then we're not going to use him. But if he's like, hey, I want the ball, I got this, because we trust his intelligence, we trust his knowledge of his body and how he feels, and if he's going to be beneficial or a detriment to our team. And we really trust him in regards to helping us make that decision.
Coach, looking at Saturday's game against Oklahoma State, I felt like after watching their pitching staff throw this past weekend, they were not getting enough credit nationally, especially, or in the conference. You're playing in the Big 12. It's a tough conference in general, but Oklahoma State, in my mind, shouldn't be a team that many have in the conversation of out of the bubble, off the bubble, or out of the postseason. When you looked at a team like OSU, especially in Stillwater, were they better than advertised?
I'll tell you what, the pitching staff was pretty good. And you said it. We have the 2nd ranked conference in regards to college baseball. And I really do believe there should be at least 5 teams from our conference that get into postseason. Oklahoma State, they had, closers on Saturday throwing 100 miles an hour. They have, several guys that were 95 to 98, so when you see a pitching staff like that and you just think about what they have the opportunity to do in postseason, I think it's very warranted for them. Like you said, the fact that they might be a bubble team or, a last team in, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Coaches, we've talked to baseball analysts locally and nationally. One of the guys came on the show and said that one of your mantras is that good teams keep from getting swept, great teams sweep. When you look at a game like Sunday, I mean, if you take a sweep at Oklahoma State, the conference standings look far more bleak than what you're now set up for against Oklahoma. Was that kind of going through your mind when you talk to the team going into Sunday or the team in general?
Well, they've heard me say that probably way too many times. So I don't have to repeat it to them. And they understand that, hey, we're here. We're going to play this game. Obviously the 6-hour rain delay was not very favorable just in regards to, you're just sitting there. But at the same time, once that game starts, it's go time. And our guys realize that, how we finish up these next few games can really be a big determining factor on postseason.
Take me through that 5-6 hour rain delay that you guys had. I mean, you're looking at your travel. Everything's kind of lined up for you guys trying to do the X's and O's, and team ops guys are probably pulling their hair out. What did that look like for you on your end? Because obviously it was a crucial game to get in for that conference race.
Well, the big thing was just trying to make sure, our guys do a great job of staying loose. They were playing different games and stuff. So it was fine for them. Some guys literally took a nap, which is fine. Us coaches, I'm more staring at all the different weather apps, trying to figure out where there might be a break or a window in that storm we were dealing with. And, and so that was the big thing, is just trying to give them a timeline. Hey, we're going to get going at, they said 5:02 and then it went to 6:02. And, and so it just, all the time frames just kept getting pushed back. And so I think we ended up starting about 6:05 and, our guys were ready to go. And so it was just a matter of letting them do their thing, stay loose, get some snacks. We went and got food for them. Like you said, our ops guy and nutrition people were kind of pulling their hair out because they have everything kind of planned out. And then next thing you know, everything changes. And, the bus trip home starts around 11 o'clock and we don't pull them back into Waco until about 4 o'clock. So it was a long night for us, but it's always easier when you have a win under your belt when you're coming back.
You talk about that, getting the win and having at least that momentum coming home on Sunday. And a lot of times the team that wins the final game of the series gets to leave with momentum no matter what's happened in the first couple, a la the Texas series and now through this one against Oklahoma State. How big of a boost is that to avoid the sweep and get the win Sunday?
Well, what's interesting is I thought we played really well, minus, it's kind of weird to say that after you make 6 errors on Friday, but I thought we played well. You take some of those things out, we gave up 4 earned runs. So we obviously, every error that we caused and created allowed them to score. And so, and I told our guys that I said, we made some mistakes, obviously, but we actually played some pretty decent baseball throughout the whole game, minus those mistakes. And then even the next day we make one error at third base that costs a run. Then we get a bad hop single that scored a couple more, and so those are the things that you look at and you're kind of like, okay, we should win that game 1-0. We should win the other game 8-4, whatever it is, but we didn't. And so I think the great thing is being able to put some of those things behind you and then come out and just try to eliminate those mistakes the next day. And our guys did a good job of that on Sunday and able to bring that confidence all the way back home.
Coach, you're looking at an Oklahoma series against the same team that you lost to earlier this year. But before you even go the X's and O's of what's going to take place this weekend, you're looking at seniors. Andy Thomas has played an MLB schedule worth of games at Baylor Ballpark. He's pushing, was it 29, his birthday last week. And so guys like that, that have given so much to this program, what are the emotions, I should say, that kind of go through you and this staff when you see those guys play for the last time in Waco?
You know what? I always get very emotional just because I get a chance to really meet, know, understand, kind of go through the goods and the bads with kids. And, you're there to help them get engaged. You're there when, family members pass away. There's all sorts of different things that a lot of people don't see that are on a coach's plate. And that's what I think just brings you such an amazing tie to these kids, is when you have that kind of relationship with them, when you're going through life with them as well, and not just baseball. But having those guys come back this year was a great thing for us, a great thing for our young guys, great thing for our program. You felt bad for them last year because they were playing really well. And then all of a sudden everything gets shut down. And I'm just really happy that the guys who came back are experiencing the things that they wanted to do and being able to do the things for the reason why they came back. Yeah.
Coach, not only the chance to honor your seniors, but the chance to finish conference play above 500, take a sweep. If a sweep happens against Oklahoma, I mean, you take over that Oklahoma State spot in the conference rankings. And I mean, say something crazy happens in Lubbock, who knows at the end of this whole thing when the standings come out. Are you looking at that at all?
No, believe it or not, I'm not. I mean, you want to finish as high as possible, but the biggest thing is you just want to make sure you just keep putting yourself in a good position. You want to finish as high as possible. At the same time, you just want to play well at the right times. And that's the biggest thing. Like the rankings, like I don't want to deal with what's happening in Lubbock. I don't deal with what's happening at TCU. I want to deal with what's happening in Waco, because those are the things that I have control over, and all that other stuff, that's not my problem.
Coach, being at home, I mean, your team at home this season has been borderline unstoppable. The record is unbelievable. What is that confidence? What do you attribute that confidence boost to playing in Baylor ballpark?
It's everything. When you get a chance to play at home, friendly confines, it makes it a lot better for you. A natural surface, which, there's only 3 of those in our conference. And so we actually enjoy it. Obviously we've had a lot of success here, and I think everybody, just like when you go into someone else's house, you're trying to, hey, where's the cups and where's the silverware? Like when you're trying to find stuff, and when you're at your own home, you know exactly where it is. I think that's the way our guys feel about it.
Coach, I remember we talked earlier this season. You said, hey, that first couple of weeks, that first 3 weeks, we get a couple weekends under our belt, and you really start to feel out the identity of this team. And I know that took a little bit longer. You look at pandemic and injuries, things that really threw the bullpen, the entire pitching staff thrown out of whack at the beginning of the year. How long did it take to find this team's identity, and what is that identity?
I think we had to get into conference, to be honest. Once we got into conference after our first couple weekends, we made a couple minor changes, and then I think our personality kind of blossomed. I really do. And I think it's just a matter of our guys play really good defense. Our guys can really handle the bat, and they're really great in executing. And so for me, they've taken the shape of a really good baseball team. They're young. They're still going to make some young mistakes, but I'll tell you what, I'll go to battle with these guys any day.
Coach, I've been looking here. So Las Vegas originally, then you're at Pepperdine. I mean, that's West Coast baseball. That's if we score 3 runs and our pitching staff does what they do, we're going to get some squeeze bunts in there and make this thing happen. This season, you guys are leaning on the long ball. I don't know about leaning, but you've got the long ball to rely on, and you put up 23 runs in a game so far. How different is this style of baseball than maybe you're used to?
I don't know if I've really changed my style of how I play. I think, like we've talked about, the personality of the team determines your style. And there's nothing worse than trying to create a style out of something that isn't there. Everybody's like, are you going to be a speed team? I go, well, if we have fast guys, then we'll have a speed team. If, like one year at Pepperdine, we weren't known as a power team, but we had 5 guys that had 10 home runs. Well, guess what? We turned into a power team that year. And so I think the team kind of develops that personality to where you start to play what you're capable of doing. If you have a good speed team, well, then you're going to run a little bit more. If you have a power team, then you don't want to run yourself out of innings. You want to allow that to happen. And so that, I think, is the big thing for a coach, is that you don't want to really coach one style. You want to coach the style of that team. And that's what really determines how I coach. Like I coach a certain way, but the team helps me develop which way we're going to start leaning as the game goes on.
Coach, along with that, when you're looking at from a team health standpoint, I don't want you to give anything away again that would go on another program scouting report, but a lot of times most schools get to this point in the season, they're so beat up, injuries left and right, guys have tweaked something. I mean, you got that 10-day break. How is the team doing right now?
You know what? I think just like every team, we have our issues, but our guys are understanding that every team is going to have issues. And the big thing for us is just to make sure that whatever issues that we're dealing with, whether it's health or injury, we need to find a way to compensate for it and fill those spots in as best we can.
And Coach, along with that, there are a lot of whether it be baseball, softball, football, anything, coaches that use bulletin board material. So, these coaches polls come out of the RPI or anything like that, and they'll just tack it up and, hey, this is where they think we are. And then that's a rallying point. Are you a bulletin board guy?
You know what? The only thing I'm not a bulletin board guy. I don't really listen to a lot of people. I've learned that throughout my coaching career and even my playing career it's unless you're going to be in the trenches with me, then I really don't listen to it. But the big thing is I told everybody, hey, the lease has us finishing 8th. What a great way to prove them wrong. As soon as those things came out at the beginning of the year, I just said, hey, this is what everybody thinks of you. It's a great way to prove them wrong.
I love it. At least that part, at least the league, at least you got to show the league. And then, as like I said, games get down more into crunch time, postseason on the cusp, and you're taking it game by game. I want to know, is it in your mind still just that thought of we want to make the postseason, play in a regional, go somewhere and make some noise? Not the cart before the horse necessarily, but also striving to be in postseason play.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things. And so we need to play well this weekend, and then I think our pitching is really starting to develop. So when we get into the conference tournament, I really like the depth of our pitching staff. And so I think we're set up really well. If we just go out and play well, obviously we're going to have some weather issues this weekend, so we'll have to manage that. But I think we're set up pretty well as long as we can play good defense, keep the ball below the barrels, and get some timely hitting.
Well, Coach, we got our Bear Games questions of the day, as always.
All right, let's do it.
There was only one today, but I'm going to give you two because this one's tailored specifically to you, and that is your personal preference, Sailor Bear hat or the gold vests?
Ooh. I really like the Sailor Bear hat just because of the tradition, but the championship gold vests on Sunday are I think they're pretty special. Our guys really love them. I would have to say the gold vest. That's championship Sunday.
Are you a superstition guy? We won in green, we got to wear green?
I'm not that big of a superstitious guy, but I am a creature of habit. So is there a difference? There's a fine line between those two. If things work, then just like everybody says, then that's the reason. It's not superstition. It just helps you. I know like Wade Boggs used to eat chicken before every game. He's like, oh, that's superstition. Well, if it works, then it's not superstition. It's just something that works. And so, I don't know about, eating and drinking and all that other stuff before a game, but if you think it helps you, then it helps you.
I guess there was the year that Ole Miss didn't wash their baby blues their entire through the regional and super regional. So as long as you're washing your uniforms, I think we in the media and the fans would probably be okay with it. Then our real Bear Games question of the day today, and most of the callers don't have any perspective on this. They're just kind of shooting a shot in the dark, but you get to be in the locker room with these guys and be around a lot of the athletes. That's if you could pick one Baylor athlete to sing the national championship, to sing the national anthem before a game, who would it be?
One Baylor athlete. I would pick one of our former players, Josh Bissonnette.
Wow.
Josh Bissonnette, his dad was a bass guitarist for Elton John. His uncle was a drummer for Van Halen. Very musically inclined family. I would have to go with him. I would have to go with Josh Bissonnette, who's currently playing in AA with the Pittsburgh Pirates right now.
Wow. Does that help you in the recruiting process when you're sitting on the couch and he lets you know that his dad plays bass for Elton John?
What's funny is we didn't really know that until he got here. We were just kind of talking one day and he's like, oh yeah, my dad won't be around for a while. He's on tour. Like, what are you talking about on tour? And so it was just kind of interesting information and just being able to talk. And sometimes when his dad would come to practice, we'd put like Elton John's like greatest hits on the sound system. And he would just start laughing and stuff. So it was really fun just to kind of be a part of that. And he's just a great family, good kid, and one of my favorite players here at Baylor.
Well, Coach, I would say congratulations on everything you put together so far, but you're not even, you got almost 20 games left in you this season. So why be saying congratulations now? Hopefully we can do this again here in a couple of weeks with you guys in the postseason, and always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Drake. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Again, that was Coach Steve Rodriguez on Up Tempo today. When we come back, we're talking more Baylor sports. Don't go anywhere. This, like I said, is Up Tempo.
Today's the day for Baylor men's tennis. Michael Woodson and his team meet TCU for the 4th time this season with the stakes higher than ever as a trip to the Final Four is on the line. First serve for the match is scheduled for 1 o'clock Central Time in Orlando, Florida. The Bears have gotten the best of the Frogs in the team's 2 outdoor matches this season after falling in the indoor, but anything can happen in Orlando. Live stat feed and video feed will be available online and can be found on the Baylor Tennis Twitter page. And Nikki Cullen has landed another hire for her staff as Michael Mata will join the Lady Bears next season as the assistant AD for operations. He was previously the director of operations at Dartmouth College. Apart from the hire, Moon Urson and Trinity Oliver have entered the transfer portal with Chrislyn Carr headed to Syracuse. Elsewhere in the nation, Duke has hired an athletic director in Nina King. She joined the department in September of 2008 and will become the first woman to serve as Duke's athletic director and the third black woman to lead a Power 5 department. In men's basketball, Texas Tech has added transfer Sadar Calhoun from Florida State, and Oklahoma State has landed transfer Bryce Thompson from Kansas. And reports have surfaced that the SEC sent schools $23 million each to make up for financial losses because of COVID-19. The conference estimates each school will lose $45 million from athletics due to the pandemic. And the NCAA Division I Council plans to act on legislative proposals next month that would allow athletes to be paid to be sponsors, social media influencers, and product endorsers. This is a major step in the direction of college athletes being paid. Also, Baylor events are now at 100% capacity. Go out and watch a baseball game this weekend. I'm Jack McKenzie in for Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Jack's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more. With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Alan Samuels is celebrating Jeep Freedom Days. It's an exciting time for a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with up to $3,750 in values or 0% for 72 months. The new Jeep Cherokee Laredo is built tough, and with the Jeep Freedom Days going on now, it's a great time for a new Jeep SUV. Alan Samuels, the award-winning customer service Central Texas dealer. The best place to get your next SUV. Located at 201 West Loop 340, Alan Samuels is your friend in the car business.
Come by, let's be friends.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
No capes. Do you remember Thunderhead? Tall, storm powers. Nice man. Good with kids.
Listen. Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Diner guy, snag on takeoff. Splashdown, sucked into a vortex. No capes.
Here's Drake Toll and Armstrong Sims.
And welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den remote. How about it? Happy Thursday, everybody. Jersey Thursday from Valonia, Arkansas. Joined by Baylor starting left fielder now, Lou Gilbert, on the road from Gainesville, Florida, ready for the postseason this weekend in the Florida Regional. Lou, thanks for coming on the show today. Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Lou, look, I mean, a crazy year. You got COVID that happens and all the injuries and different things that have gone on across the country for every team. But everything you guys have dealt with this season, you know, we've heard from Coach Moore about the injuries and the different hardships that this team has fought through. From your perspective, how tough was it to get to this moment to now be in the Gainesville Regional in the postseason?
Yeah, no, it was extremely tough. It takes a lot of like mental and physical stamina just to get here. The toll that the season takes on your body is just a different level from anything that I think we've all experienced before now this year. So just being here is a blessing. And, you know, we know that God's been looking over our season and he's the one that put us here. So we're super excited to be here.
Lou, on top of that for you, I mean, started at third base last year, had really seemed like you got comfortable in a stride at that position. Coming into this year, you're asked to change positions, move to left field. So not only is everything different off the field, now on the field, you're changing to the outfield and you become all conference. I mean, that change for you when you were asked to play in left field, really what went through your mind?
Honestly, it was like I get to go back home. I'm an outfielder at heart is what I always tell everybody, but wherever Coach Moore wants me to play, that's where I'm going to play. And wherever he needs me, wherever the team needs me, that's where I want to be.
That adjustment, moving from third base to outfield for you, as an outfielder at heart, how tough was that, trying to make that happen, especially at a level of softball like Baylor's?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult at first because you go from being one of the closest positions to the plate to one of the furthest away. So, you know, reaction time is different. Plus you get a lot more spin on the ball when you're further away. So it's just a different angle on the field to see, different spin from the ball. It was definitely an adjustment, but, you know, we worked so hard at practice that enough reps got me to where I needed to be.
Lou, coming into this season, I mean, so many question marks up and down with not just this team, but across the conference and how everything would look in the game of softball in general. And to be able to make this postseason, do what you guys have done, you're sitting in that room waiting to find out if you'd even go to an NCAA regional. What was that moment like for you and the team?
You know, it was definitely nerve-wracking being in that room, just wondering if our name was even going to be called, and then to be called as early as the number 4 seed in the nation. You know, I think sense of relief being called that early, and then again, seeing what a great regional we got, just we're ecstatic to be here. We're ecstatic to be called, and we just know that the hard work starts now.
Lou, along with that, I want to take you back to the season that everybody tries to forget, the 2019 year. I mean, 2-16 in conference play, just so uncharacteristic for Baylor, but the injury bug that got the team that season and just everything that could have gone wrong seemed to go wrong that year. You remember being on a 2-16 conference team that didn't make the postseason. This is your first time in the postseason. What is this like for you personally?
For me personally, I'm excited to experience it. You know, you hear all these upperclassmen and all these older girls talk about how it's just a completely different environment and anything and everything can happen in postseason, and all the rules and laws of softball are defied here. And so I just think for me personally, it's going to be one heck of a ride. And I know that 3/4 of the team has never experienced this. So knowing that, you know, we come in and I think you just have sort of a chip on your shoulder that you're like, hey, we're here. We deserve to be here. Let's do it.
Lou, the fact that you haven't experienced this and the fact that you have experienced the 18-31 and then a COVID year where I thought, I mean, I'm biased, but I thought you guys were taking at least 2 out of 3 from in Gainesville last year when the season dropped out. I mean, you've seen a year without a postseason, a year that was quit in the middle of it, and now to make it to the Gainesville Regional. Does that make it just a little bit sweeter knowing what you've come from?
Oh, of course. I mean, being a softball player my entire life, like this is what you work for. And so being your freshman year and that being taken away from you through things that were out of your control, and then sophomore year having that done again, this year it's like we're itching to be here and we just can't seem to get there fast enough.
Lou, we talked to Coach Moore earlier this week on the show, and I asked him about the seniors, or those players that were on that College World Series team, the players that have been deep in the postseason before, and kind of what they've talked about. He said they've shared a lot of memories over the last week or so, and just they've been able to give a lot of insight on what it's like to be in the postseason. What have you heard from them or learned from them in this process?
I think one of the most important things that stuck with me was something that Taylor Ellis said. And she walked into her locker her freshman year, and there was a sticker in there, I guess left from a former player, and it had the Women's College World Series logo on it, and it said, "Where will you be in June?" And she just said that motivated her. We've got our summers taken away from us working towards becoming a collegiate softball athlete, and then you get here and the World Series is in June, right in the middle of your college summer. But it's like, instead of focusing on, oh, what can I do in June? It's like, I'm going to be here in June. It sets that mindset right from the beginning, back in August, not even just in January, but back in August. It's like, this is what we're working for. So get your mind right.
Lou, along with that, players like Taylor Ellis, Gia Rodoni, even Goose McGlon, and the list goes on, of players that came back that didn't have to. They put their life on pause for a year to come back and play with this team. Talk about, I'm thinking about it. If you lose that core of players that came back, then where is this team this year? The fact that they all made the decision, the selfless decision to forego life and play softball for another year, what has that meant to this team?
I think it's meant so much that they know how much the sport means to them. They were all ready and set with their lives after this season. Like a lot of them I know had jobs, and to put that on hold, I think it just shows the commitment and passion that they have for the sport. When something's stripped away from you, it really takes a big part out of you. And to see them come back, it's just, that's the kind of leadership you want, and that's the kind of passion you want on the team.
Then Lou, personally, the hardships of this season and to be all conference, you're in that leadoff spot. You've got, the pop in the bat, a power hitter in the leadoff spot that can also do a bunt single really whenever. What has that been like being, you're relied on so heavily as the leadoff hitter and then being honored as a Big 12 honoree?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I had, of course, Nikki Dawson in front of me before she got hurt. So she really set the standard of what it takes to be a leadoff and really gave me somebody to be a mentor, mentee too. And just being there for my team, I want to spark the game. I want to be that spark plug for them. So if whatever I can do to help the team out and spark a win, that's what I'm going to do.
And then, Lou, you get the news. Just two of you guys, you and Emily Hott, that are Big 12 all-conference athletes this softball season. The honor that is that so few are able to wear. The fact that you got that. When you found out, what was that like?
I think my heart dropped a little bit. Not so much that I wasn't expecting it, but just like hearing it actually said, it was like, okay, all of my hard work, all of the competitiveness that my team brings to practice, like that got me here. And just knowing that like it's all worth it in the end, I just loved hearing it. And, hearing Emily's name too, just knowing how much of a hard worker she is, that it really paid off for us.
Lou, starting 46 games as a freshman. Ideally in most programs, you bring your freshmen in, you give them a couple years to acclimate. You were asked to step on a softball field and perform day one, to be a starter day one for the team and produce. How vital, how big was that in your progression to this point to now be such a staple with this team?
It's probably the best thing that he could have done to me, just throw me into the fire, throw me into the water and hope that I start swimming. So I think that the acclimation, it got me started right from the get-go. I didn't have to wait and bide my time. I came in and I earned that spot. And the fact that he just threw me in there gave me more time to be accustomed and just learn from my teammates more.
Lou, now this season, we talked about the injuries, COVID, everything that's gone through, and you look at like Nikki Dawson and Madison Kettler, who are such staples of this team, such great hitters, and then the way they play in the field. I mean, just one by one, it seems like everybody's dealing with something. The nagging injuries this season or the injuries that have put people out for the entire year, yet still you're here in the postseason. I mean, Coach Moore said at one point there were like 15 active players on roster. Like it's gotten that just stringent. And here you are. You're in Gainesville with a shot to go to a super regional on the line. And I know you got to win the first one to even get to the second one. But what is it going to take? What gives you the confidence that you guys could pull it off this weekend?
Well, I think the fact that we're here in the first place just speaks to the depth and the leadership that we have on this team. You know, you don't get to this point without talent. You don't get to this point without leadership. And you definitely don't get to this point without depth. We've got great pitching, we've got great defense, and we've got great offense. So I think that just being here just shows the fight in this team and the stamina that we want it. And we have this passion for the game to be here.
Lou, along with that, you know, there were so many points in time this season where, number one, the team could have just been like, all right, we're good. We're checking out. That's enough injuries. I mean, it's time to shut down and get ready for next season. But there's just been that fight, that ability, that drive to win. And one of the things that I know has been a message to the team this season is that honoring Coach Lum with this season and putting this together for him. I mean, how vital of a role has that played, the team wanting to play for him?
Yeah, it's definitely played a vital role just because he played a vital role in our lives. And to your comment about throwing in the towel, you know, we had that freshman season. We had that experience. And I think that's enough to leave that bitter taste in your mouth where it's like, you know what, if we threw the towel in that year, we already know what that's like. We've already had that experience. We don't need that again. So I think that has been another motivating factor where it's like, you know, we know what that feels like and we're not here for it. But Lum just had such a presence on this team that even though he's not on this earth with us, we feel this presence on the field and we have signs for him on the field and we constantly are using his lingo at practice. So he still has a presence at the practice. And I think that motivates some people just because of the man and the person and the Christian that he was. We just want to honor him the best we can.
Looking up and down the coaching staff still, I mean, Coach Moore and what he's done in 2 decades at Baylor and the World Series runs that he's put together. I mean, I talk about the seniors that have that experience, but Coach Moore himself has done it, 4 or 5 times now. The guy goes every couple of years. His leadership, the leadership of this staff this season. I mean, the guy had a heart attack basically in the middle of the year, and he's still out there coaching. I remember them telling me, though, hey, listen, he's probably going to be out there for a couple months. It's like the next game, and there he is, shaking hands with the umpires. Like, he's that kind of guy. What has it been like to really rally around this staff, and how have they pushed this team to this point?
Yeah, once again, I say, teams, they start from the top and they work their way down. So if we have all this stamina, just imagine what Coach Moore has. And he's shown that to our fans. He's shown that to us. And he's shown that to the coaching staff that he wants to be here. And nothing that this earth can do is going to take him down with him. So I just think him showing how strong he is in the same way that we fight for Lum, we fight for him. These coaches, they've established this relationship in this type of environment that your players are going to run through a brick wall for you. They're just that amazing.
Well, Lou, taking it into the postseason with this pitching staff, the conglomerate of hitters that have been hot at the right times at different times this season. I mean, when you got Gia Rodoni and Sidney Holman Manziel in the circle, how can you not go into a game confident? Coming into the Gainesville Regional, the same place you were when the season ended last year, full circle right there. I mean, what is it about this team that's going to give Baylor a shot?
I feel like we are just solid all the way around. We have the pitching, like you said, we have the hitting, and we have phenomenal players that can make phenomenal plays on defense. And I think one thing that gives a pitcher the most confidence is knowing that your defense will play for you and that the offense will come around. So with the pitchers that we have and my other teammates that surround me on the field, we've seen what we can do, and we've seen the ups and we've seen the downs, and we're still here. So nothing else can prove that we deserve to be here or that we're going to fight for each other.
And Lou, when you look around this regional in Gainesville, you got South Alabama, South Florida, and obviously Florida, the number 4 overall seed in the nation, who Coach Glenn Moore knows the Florida team well, knows their head coach well, as I'm sure a lot of the girls on the team do at Baylor. When you look around at the other squads here, I mean, there are no slouches in this regional that you guys are competing with.
Yeah, I know all of the teams here, we got put into a really feisty, really fighting regional. And I think that, seeing the wins that these other teams have against other great teams, it's nothing to sneeze at. And I think that it's just more of a challenge to us, and we're not going to back down from a challenge, and we love it. And, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. So
Lou, there's the old adage that Steve Rodriguez brought to our show today. It's just, hey, take it one game at a time, one pitch at a time. I mean, that is just the greatest baseball, softball cliche that exists. But is that maybe the message? If not, what is the message going into this regional to try to continue the march through the postseason?
Yeah, I would say that's 100% our message. I know in all big games that we've played this year, we've talked about winning the inning, winning the pitch, winning the at-bat. The more you can break it down and focus on that single pitch and this single swing, the easier it's going to be to come out at the end. It's hard to look at a 7-inning game and be like, okay, win the game. But when you break it up into, hey, let's win the inning. Hey, let's win this batter. Hey, let's win this pitch. It becomes so much of an easier task to handle than just looking at it as a 7-inning game. So that is 100% our message that we've been telling each other.
Well, Lou, I know that these experiences going to the postseason, being on these road trips with the team, you get to fly out there. And I mean, the 5-star hotel with the chain link, I'm not sure what's going on behind you, but like some kind of curtain thing. All these experiences that Baylor softball has been able to bring you and bring your teammates. I mean, when you really think about it, just what does Baylor softball mean to you in moments like these that'll stick with you forever?
Well, this is every little girl's dream. I mean, you could probably find some ballpark on the weekend and ask some of these little girls, like, what do you want to do? And they'll tell you they want to play college softball and they're 8. So, just being here and getting these experiences, it's just reaping the harvest of what I've sowed my entire life and just what I've worked towards. And I just know that God's looking down on me and blessing me for his good work and everything that we do here at Baylor to serve him and put him up on a pedestal.
Lou, I asked this to Coach Michael Woodson of the tennis team this week. They're in Orlando, not too far from you guys, playing in the NCAA Elite 8 today, actually. And with that, I said, hey, Coach, everybody can watch the game on ESPN Plus, but nobody sees the behind the scenes. What's going on with the team, whether it be dinner or in the hotel or the games or shenanigans, the travel. I mean, take us through kind of what it's been like. I know you did the NCAA softball, the takeover on social media. What has it been like being with the team, kind of the behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to see?
Yeah, no, we all love each other. We're together all the time and we're like a family, and, families butt heads, but at the same time, you would do anything for each other. And when you're with each other as much as we are, you're gonna butt heads, and that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you're a team, you're a family, and you're going to do whatever you can for each other. But we love to sing on the bus. We love to be loud at dinner, always cracking jokes. It's a very lively environment to be around. And, when practice is over, I never want to leave. I want to stay around the girls. I don't want to go home, be by myself. I want to stay with them. They're my family. They're my friends.
Lou, I know the men's basketball team did a Connect 4 tournament in the bubble, and then the men's tennis team, they went out to the driving range, played a couple rounds of golf. I remember being in Houston with you guys last year. I think it was the Bachelor or the Bachelorette that everybody was huddled around an iPad at like 8 in the morning eating cereal and watching. Has there been that one thing that just everybody's kind of doing right now to pass the time?
Honestly, I don't think it's like one thing. I can point to so many different things that we've done as a team. Like the previous hotel we were at, there were scary stories about it being haunted and no 13th floor there and just these wacky stories. So we're all over the hotel pranking each other with a Wonder Boom speaker, trying to get some screams and some shrills out of each other.
I love it. Lou, before we get you out of here, I mean, congratulations so far on what you've been able to do this season, the entire team, what you guys have pulled off in the face of so much adversity across the board. Coach Moore said it. He said, look, in my 20-plus years of coaching, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. And he could write a book just on this season, what you guys have been through. So coming full circle, being in the postseason, I mean, it's awesome that you guys have done so much to get to this point.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a little bit of justice going on here. You know, we had the season stripped away from us here, and we're about to keep it going down here in Gainesville as well. So justice, irony, whatever you want to call it, but we're here to play.
There you go. Lou, before we get you out of here, got our Bear Games question of the day today. And this one we threw at Coach Rod, and same one for you. So that is national anthem comes around. You got to pick one Baylor athlete. I won't even make you stick to softball. Just one Baylor athlete has got to sing the national anthem to open up a game. Packed house, 40,000 people. Who's singing it? And you can say yourself, even if you have that much confidence, take it away. You can also say Krista Pirtle. I don't know if she's listening, but I'll accept that one too.
Oh gosh, that is a tricky one. For the sake of a rapid fire answer, I'm going to go with Sydney Collazos. You know, she is a little spark plug on this team, and, you know, everybody just gets a kick out of her. And I don't think they know a ton of her serious side, but that girl can sing. So I'm putting all my eggs in that basket with her.
Bring it on. The freshman, 40,000 yes. people, the freshman, unfazed national anthem. Lou, thanks so much for joining the show today, coming on with us and talking Baylor softball. I know you guys are excited to get this weekend kicked off in the regional. And like I said, congratulations, and it's a pleasure to have you today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Sweet. Thanks again. That was Lou Gilbert of Baylor softball. When we come back, Morgan Uber, a Big 12 digital correspondent, joins the show. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy elite tennis facilities and also remain fit or reshape your body. Now Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. There are 7 large flat screens stretched across the main and improved weight room with Wi-Fi available and their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports channels. The beautiful sound of active treadmills and elliptical machines, group exercise classes throughout each day, a new ballet bar for bar classes, a new look lounge and bar with beer and wine with more large flat screens available. Touchless water fountains outside each spacious men's and women's locker rooms, showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts and lessons for adults and juniors. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Also, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. So start today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
I got breaking news here. We got Western Athletic Conference just announced they're adding several schools.
The WAC.
The WAC.
Okay. Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
I think Coach Gundy would be like my guy that I would just like just the hair. Yeah. I just want to be able to see it flow when I kind of slam his arm down.
Here's Drake Toll.
What's going on, y'all? It's J.D. PicKell. Today on the Hard Count, we're going to talk about Baylor's new addition to the offensive line via the transfer portal. All of that coming up after the cool animation. So last week on Up Tempo, which is weekdays 12 to 2 Central, Drake Toll and I talked about, hey, do you want to see Baylor go after an offensive lineman in the transfer portal? I said, no, I don't. I think that's more glitter than gold. Why would you bring in a player at your most complex position after the most important 15 practices of your entire season? It made no sense to me. I don't understand that. It's the most complex position because you have to have 5 guys, all of them on the same page. And if one of them's not on the same page, your play isn't even getting started, okay? The quarterback's getting sacked. And we saw that a lot a season ago. So I was like, hey, let the guys that are on the roster go through spring, get some chemistry, and let's roll from there. My exception to that rule was if a guy from BYU that Mateos and Grimes both knew and didn't have to coach so much and could just plug and play in the fall was in the portal, fine. Bring him in. That's fine. Now, enter Jacob Gall via the transfer portal from Buffalo when Coach Leipold left for Kansas. And this is a perfect fit. Okay, this is a home run get for Baylor Nation. Physically, the guy is a freak, okay? He plays with a real mean streak, has an attitude, is physical as heck, and then he's also lightning quick, okay? So in this wide zone scheme, you have to be able to block 2 players on one play at the guard position. And Jacob Gall did that better than anybody in the country. So to give you a picture, in this wide zone, the guard has to combo with the center on that interior lineman. So whether it's a nose guard or a tackle, you have to help on that block. Then you have to sprint to cut off the linebacker to allow the running backs some space and to break free. And Jacob Gall did that quite a bit as Buffalo ran for nearly 300 yards a game, which is not too shabby, I would say. Granted, they had some good backs, but every good play starts with good offensive line play, y'all. And Jacob Gall was, according to Pro Football Focus, the best left guard in the country a season ago. So he's a phenomenal get from a physicality standpoint and from what he brings to the table just on the field. Now, what makes this perfect to me is the fact that Buffalo ran the wide zone a season ago, okay? They ran the same scheme that Baylor is going to run this coming season. So not only will Jacob Gall not be behind when he shows up on campus, he might be a step or 2 ahead of all these other guys that have been on campus that were in spring ball that are still trying to pick up the wide zone because he's already done it. He already knows the nuances. He's already been in the scheme. He knows how to block it up. So this is phenomenal for Baylor. I absolutely love this move. Now, what this means for them going forward for this upcoming season, it cannot be overstated. So you got Grant Miller and Jacob Gall, who have both played quite a bit of football between them. So about 60 games between the two of them, which is phenomenal. To have maturation on the offensive line, to have in-game experience, you can't replace that. There's no way that you can substitute for that. Now, in Jacob Gall, and Grant Miller, they're both very physical as well. So whether it's center and guard or guard and center between the two of them, who knows? Who cares? Bottom line, they're going to be able to get movement up front, and they're really going to be able to get 3 yards on first and second down. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but when you're able to get 3 yards on first and second down, that opens up the playbook so much on third down, because Baylor, time and time again last season, we saw them 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 15 at times when it got ugly. We're not going to see that as much this year because of what they're going to be able to do up front, thanks to the physicality of that interior line via Jacob Gall. So what this says to me about Baylor is they want to win now, okay? They're not going to just recruit guys to play early next year and try and rebuild. No, they're going to the transfer portal. They're getting a stud like Jacob Gall to try and win games this upcoming season. So hats off to Dave Aranda, Coach Mateos, Coach Grimes. They got their guy. He's going to be a stud. Jacob Gall, welcome to Waco, my man. I'm excited to watch you serve up some pancakes all Saturday afternoon. Gonna be a whole lot of fun. So excited for this team. So excited for the way that this offensive line is continuing to progress. Again, with the addition of Jacob Gall coming from Buffalo to Baylor. It's going to be a good time running the football over here, y'all. That has been it for here on The Hard Count. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel on SicEm365. Let me know what you want to see in the comments, okay? Let's talk about it. Let's have a good back and forth. Let me know what more videos you want to see as we keep this party happening here on The Hard Count. This has been a SicEm365 production. We'll see y'all next time.
Today's the day for Baylor men's tennis. Michael Woodson and his team meet TCU for the 4th time this season with the stakes higher than ever as a trip to the Final Four is on the line. First serve for the match is scheduled for 1 o'clock Central Time in Orlando, Florida. The Bears have gotten the best of the Frogs in the team's 2 outdoor matches this season after falling in the indoor, but anything can happen in Orlando. Live stat feed and video feed will be available online and can be found on the Baylor Tennis Twitter page. And Nikki Cullen has landed another hire for her staff as Michael Mata will join the Lady Bears next season as the assistant AD for operations. He was previously the director of operations at Dartmouth College. Apart from the hire, Moon Urson and Trinity Oliver have entered the transfer portal with Chrislyn Carr headed to Syracuse. Elsewhere in the nation, Duke has hired an athletic director in Nina King. She joined the department in September of 2008 and will become the first woman to serve as Duke's athletic director and the 3rd black woman to lead a Power 5 department. In men's basketball, Texas Tech has added transfer Sadar Calhoun from Florida State, and Oklahoma State has landed transfer Bryce Thompson from Kansas. And reports have surfaced that the SEC sent schools $23 million each to make up for financial losses because of COVID-19. The conference estimates each school will lose $45 million from athletics due to the pandemic. And the NCAA Division I Council plans to act on legislative proposals next month that would allow athletes to be paid to be sponsors, social media influencers, and product endorsers. This is a major step in the direction of college athletes being paid. Also, Baylor events are now at 100% capacity. Go out and watch a baseball game this weekend. I'm Jack McKenzie, in for Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Jack's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Pay over qualified buyer with 4,000 down at 2.9% TTNL extra. CDO for details.
Travel is back, and so are the savings at the Memorial Day savings event at Richard Carr. Hit the road in a 2016 Buick Encore for only $152 a month, a 2016 GMC Sierra for only $318 a month, a 2018 Mercedes GLA for $334 a month, or a 2015 GMC Terrain for only $135 a month. 100% credit approval is always our goal. It's a Memorial Day savings event going on now at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll for a Baylor take on your lunch break.
All right, welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den, remote from the metropolis that is Valonia, Arkansas, today on the campus of Valonia High School, actually. About the only place that has Wi-Fi locally. Drake Toll joining you alongside. We've got Jack McKenzie and Andrew Robertson in studio watching some soccer, it looks like. At least I got some sports on. And now Morgan Uber, the Big 12 digital correspondent, joins us as always. Morgan, thanks for coming on. I know you've had a busy day today with stuff going on around the conference, but always a pleasure to have you.
Drake, thanks so much, as always, for having me. Pretty crazy to think here we are just one Big 12 championship away from, the conclusion of this year. So got through 3 last weekend, but, baseball next weekend is all we have left. And then we get to look forward to some exciting postseason action between, softball, baseball. We got tennis going on, golf. I mean, it is just everything right now and super exciting for our teams competing on the national stage.
Morgan, as I'm looking up and down these sports here, we did a recap. We did at the top of the show today, kind of the floor and the ceiling for all the Baylor sports that are still remaining. There are, that I can count for Baylor, baseball, softball, men's and women's golf, men's and women's tennis, the only sports that could still be going right now in the spring. And we are basically a weekend away from only 1 or 2 of those still being in action. I mean, spring sports not only are winding down, but there are some schools that have completely wrapped up their athletic year so far.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. It's huge, to see the success that, of course, Baylor and Baylor fans get to, cheer on their teams. But, really from the conference as a whole, and the one that, really comes top of mind right now, because we got 3 different teams in action today is men's tennis. And yesterday, with women's tennis, Texas advancing. So I would say really for the conference, and you look at softball getting 5 teams in, 5 of 7, that's 71%. Huge to get that number in there. And then it's going to be really interesting to see, what happens with baseball and, expectation that Baylor's in there. And along with, potentially 5 teams would be, huge for the conference, 5-6 teams. So, yeah, it's just, all around definitely an exciting spring. And, the biggest thing that I look at, especially from a conference standpoint, is just hey, look, we made it. 12 months ago, we didn't know if we'd be here. So it is just a really unique postseason, and a little bit emotional to think that we're getting back to this sense of normalcy, and we made it through a full academic year, seeing these teams now be able to compete in the postseason.
It is, Morgan. I was talking to somebody yesterday, the fact that just everything that's opening up, the fact that everything's going back to normal is almost emotional. It's kind of weird how you feel about it as you see people's faces again in the grocery store and restaurants, and things feel like they did before the pandemic, and sports is going back to that as well. Morgan, when it comes to capacity limitations moving forward, I mean, you're seeing a lot of schools open up to 100% in the South, and now a couple of the northern schools are kind of following suit. Has there been any word yet on the Big 12 baseball championship in Oklahoma City and what that will look like yet?
Nothing that I can unveil yet. That announcement should be coming very soon. But to your point, I think with the NCAA making that announcement yesterday saying, hey, we're going to leave it up to these local, the local officials in those places. And, the schools and universities have been already announcing. I mean, we've seen so many of our schools, like you mentioned, getting back to 100% capacity. And I know, the athletic departments are thrilled about that. The student athletes are thrilled. I mean, I can't imagine, being a baseball player, being a softball player, playing at just, 25% capacity of fans. So it really is just a culmination of, all the adversity we faced this year. It's great to kind of see this, positive light at the end of the tunnel. And certainly, just from conversations that, we've been having, it sounds like, football stadiums in the fall are going to be getting back to that as well. Again, depending on, the local guidelines. But, here in the state of Texas, things are looking pretty good. And with a lot of our schools, obviously Baylor being, right there in the heart of Waco, it's looking very positive. And, I'm happy to see it. And I think our student athletes, they deserve getting back to that sense of normalcy and some really good things coming down the pipe. Also yesterday with football media days, being announced by the Big 12 conference office that we are optimistically planning to have those again back in person after a year off last year.
Morgan, do you want to let the people at home know that just now ITA released that if you're following along with the action in Orlando, a power outage will affect live streams and live scoring. So Baylor plays at 1 o'clock and fans won't have any live stream or live scoring, at least momentarily. So I think Baylor Twitter and the Baylor Twitter page probably the best place to follow along. But I want to stick there for a second, Morgan. You've got Baylor representing the Big 12 in the men's tennis tournament still. Texas is there as well. And obviously TCU is too, with Baylor and TCU squaring off today from the conference. I mean, to have that much representation into the Elite Eight and the fact that Baylor is still playing today has to be a great blurb for the conference tennis-wise.
It's incredibly special. And you think about how this regular season ended, those three teams, Baylor, TCU, and Texas, all tied for that regular season championship. So it really just, here they are now on the Elite Eight stage. It goes to show just really the equality, the level of, the high level that all three of these teams were playing at this season, and to continue seeing them just be really dominant here in the national stage has been great. And, with TCU and Baylor, from my standpoint, obviously you hate to have to see these two teams go up against each other. You hate to have to see one of these Big 12 teams lose, but I think it's really intriguing because it is a huge rivalry for, both of these programs that get to see a whole lot of each other throughout the season. They know what each other's best stuff looks like. And I was listening into the media day press conference yesterday with head coach Michael Woodson talking about how, 3 different venues these teams have played at, and they've had 3 different paths to get there. They've won the doubles point and lost. They've won the doubles point and won. And it's just, so they know what they're going to get in each other. You better bet that these teams, they're both going to be bringing their highest level of competition, highest level of caliber. And I think, for Baylor, this is what they've aspired for all year. They have the potential to win a national championship. I think, all of these teams left on this stage are definitely good enough to do that. But yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. And I sure hope that they get those technical difficulties figured out, because I know people at home are going to want to watch. But I will give a plug to the Baylor men's tennis Twitter page. Their SID that runs that is fantastic. So I'm sure, depending on what happens, he'll keep all of us, up to date on that front.
Max is our guy. We are big fans of Max Calderon on this show, who runs the Baylor men's tennis page. I don't know if I was supposed to give that out, but I did. Folks, some free plug for him. But yeah, they'll be in action here at 1 o'clock against TCU. Morgan, outside of tennis, you also have baseball and softball going on right now as both of those teams enter the postseason. You know, baseball's got to wrap up the regular season at home, and that starts tonight. So you got the Thursday, Friday, Saturday against Oklahoma. And I mentioned at the top of the show today that, to me, Oklahoma and Baylor have kind of flipped places of where they were supposed to be in conference play. Oklahoma had some top 25 aspirations early on in the season, and that really dissipated. It looks like they're the outside looking in postseason wise, but they've got a shot to even jump Baylor in the Big 12 standings right now. This is no Oklahoma team that can be overlooked.
That's exactly right. I mean, these are two teams, Baylor and Oklahoma. They met back at the end of February, and Oklahoma took that game 9-3. And that's what began Oklahoma's hot streak. They went on, a 13-game stretch where they were averaging 10 runs per game. So Oklahoma got really hot early. And I would say, it's honestly a little bit opposite of what we saw from Baylor. As the season went along, this is a team that just got better and better. So I think, the Sooners are going to be getting a much different Baylor team, but with the same token, I think, Baylor's going to be getting a much different Oklahoma team. But I think, we had talked about the last week just how important these last two series were going to be for Baylor because of, the standings, TCU and Texas, pulling away and Texas Tech up there as well. So really the middle of the pack was coming down between Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma. So it was a little bit of a detriment, I think, to Baylor's seeding last week and, losing that series to Oklahoma State. So they really, this 3-game series against Oklahoma starting tonight is going to be super critical. I'm praying, that the weather, it's been crazy here in Texas, but hoping, we're able to get all these games in. But yeah, it really for Baylor, they've got to come out strong in order to, secure their seedings here for the Big 12 championship. And we are, way less than a week away. It starts next Tuesday with the play-in game there. And so it'll be a full week of baseball basically in Oklahoma City.
Morgan, along with that, the Oklahoma State series, Baylor going on the road to Stillwater. It's an awesome. I don't know if I'd seen that facility really in depth until this past weekend, and it's really great what Oklahoma State has built there. And they play so well at home. They showcased that again, taking 2 out of 3 from Baylor. Though coming into the match, and even now, it feels like Oklahoma State maybe hasn't gotten the love that they deserve on a national scale. They hit a lull in the middle of the season, but that's a really good Oklahoma State team from what I saw.
They're very strong. And I think from them too, we've seen a little bit of ups and downs, from the Cowboys. They were ranked earlier in the top 25. They, fell out and, have been receiving votes and then got back in there. So I think they have, the potential to be dangerous. And we saw that, I think, from them this weekend against Baylor. But, to be honest, I think, the Baylor Bears gave them a little bit to work with there on Friday, unfortunately making 6 errors, ended up losing that game. And then, they went 1 for 11 on Saturday with runners in scoring position. So, you're not going to win a game like that if you're Baylor. So I think, Baylor's right there with them. And, I think on Sunday, Baylor was really able to put everything together. Everything on all cylinders really looked strong and great. So, yeah, but to your point, Oklahoma State, we are really strong as a conference right now in baseball. And, top to bottom, it's been really, really fun to see how all these conference series shake out.
Morgan, going into Oklahoma City and seeing every year I get really excited for Big 12 baseball tournament action, or, I remember going and watching in Hoover, the SEC tournament. It's just the conferences that take the baseball series seriously, especially in the postseason. It's always fun to watch. There's always something magical. And, Baylor's been there to win a couple of those tournaments. Baylor won it in 2018 in the Big 12. And I'm looking at TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Baylor, even Oklahoma. And Kansas State is not crazy out of the mix. What are we going to see in Oklahoma City here in the next week when all these teams meet?
Hopefully not a lot of rain delays. That's what I know that's been a big characteristic, right, of Oklahoma City and Big 12 baseball is waiting through some rain delays and tornado warnings, tornado sirens. That's, what I've heard from a lot of my colleagues, because this is my first year in actually covering the Big 12 baseball postseason. So really excited to have the opportunity to do so. But I think, we're going to see a lot of teams that are going to come out and give, their best stuff. And I really think it's, this weekend in particular, looking to see how the seeds are going to be locked up. TCU and Texas certainly have separated themselves, I do think. But at the end of the day, I do think Baylor or an Oklahoma State or an Oklahoma are capable of beating those top two teams in this conference. So with the rivalries that are created, I think it's going to be, really exciting, and just a lot of teams coming out and giving each other their best stuff.
Morgan, on the softball side, Oklahoma, the number one seed in the country, and they're going to, I'd be surprised if they're pushed remotely in their regional. They should make it the super regional, likely playing Washington there. But I know we talk about it every week, but I don't think it can be overstated just how good Oklahoma has been this season. Going into, you're looking at an Oklahoma team going into the postseason that's lost 2 games. They're unbelievable this year.
We're seeing something historic with Oklahoma, and head coach Patty Gasso called this even before the season started, that she thought that this offense had a chance to be, the best in her history of being a head coach at Oklahoma. And that's saying a lot, with national championships that they have there and all the talent that they've had come through that program. But, they're proving it. And it's not just, a Jocelyn Allo, who has a lot of experience, but it's also these young freshmen, Jada Coleman, Tiara Jennings, who have just come in and been, absolutely explosive and playing, well beyond their years of experience at a collegiate level. And I think a lot of that, though, has to do with this veteran leadership and the older players that have helped them, come along. And they have 3 of the top 10 hitters in the country. It's not a question if they're going to win their regional, Drake. I think it's a question if they're going to do it in run rule fashion at this point. That has been their name of the game. We saw that in the Big 12 championship against a very talented Oklahoma State team. So the Sooners have been taking care of business, and I'm really interested, when they are pressed. You mentioned, they've lost 2 games. They ended up losing that 1 game to Georgia early in the season, but when they're playing, against potentially, it'd be awesome to see a UCLA Oklahoma matchup, the top 2 teams in the country all season, what that would look like and, how that would push their limits. But I just think Oklahoma's on a different level. I think I've been telling you that all week. They're just far beyond, what we've seen from really anyone else in the country. And a lot of that has to do with they just have an explosive lineup, 1 through 9.
Morgan, with that, you've got Baylor softball in Gainesville for the postseason, the Gainesville Regional. I was worried about where the Lady Bears would be put if they made it in the tournament. They did find their way in as a 2 seed. And I think the NCAA, the committee favored them a bit by sending them to Gainesville, because I just, the way that it shakes out, it could have been a lot worse, in my opinion, where they landed. What do you make of the Gainesville Regional and Baylor going down there to Florida?
Gosh, I guess it could have been a lot worse, but to be honest, I think this is a really rough draw for Baylor, because you look at a Florida team that hasn't lost an SEC series all season. They're number 4 in the country. And when you look at their experience up and down their roster, they have, more experience really than most teams, probably 99.5% of the teams in the country. So I do think this is a really tough draw for Baylor, and similar to what I never like to, pick against my Big 12 teams. Of course, I'm a Big 12 homer. I work for the conference, but, this is a regional that I just don't see Florida losing. It's definitely it'd be, theirs to lose. So we'll see, though. Maybe Baylor, the tough competition that they faced in the Big 12 this season will help them on that big stage. But I hate to have to pick against Baylor, but I have Florida advancing and moving on in this regional.
Yeah, that, Morgan, my ceiling when I look at the Gainesville regional, I think the best the Lady Bears could do is maybe take a game or 2, but I think this one is Florida's in the end. I thought that the Lady Bears would be sent to Los Angeles, would be over at UCLA. So I guess that's why I figure this is a little bit easier of a road than having to go to Southern California. But with that, Baylor softball, Baylor baseball, Baylor tennis in action. You got the women's golf team, too. They're still alive, competing in the NCAA championships. I don't know if you saw what happened in the Baton Rouge regional, but to have still a couple Big 12 teams that are out there and alive for the championships is always a good thing.
Definitely always a good thing. And we've really, on both the men's and women's golf sides of things, have been really strong as a conference, year after year. So I think, it's no surprise to see a lot of our teams, still strong and still competing, and definitely happy to see the Baylor women still going for it.
And then, Morgan, outside of that, recently Baylor landed a huge transfer out of the portal in Buffalo's Jacob Gall to play on the offensive line. He was rated Pro Football Focus as the best left guard in the country, and now he's going to help bolster an offensive line that needs help, that needed help prior to him coming in, and still, they're still not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but Gall's a big piece to help the Bears.
This was a huge pickup. I mean, the way that I see this, and I think, JD may have mentioned this too earlier, but it just goes to show that Dave Aranda, this group, they're trying to win now. They're not, going after a grad transfer. I guess he would technically still have 2 years of eligibility in total, but I think that the knowledge and experience that he's going to be able to bring immediately, to the room is huge. And you look at also Baylor, we know that they're going to be running the exact same scheme that Buffalo was running. So you think about, an offensive line, typically in spring practice, you'd like to have, that core group of guys practicing and playing together and understanding each other, because an offense is obviously nothing without their line. But I think, for him, he's going to be able to show the guys, maybe some of the ropes. I mean, I think that's, really huge and a great pickup, and an aggressive, going after him there in the transfer portal.
It's win now for Dave Aranda. Year two, I mean, there are a lot of football coaches where year two is put up or shut up, especially with the way the transfer portal is now. I had a conversation today with someone talking about Scott Drew. I mean, if Scott Drew was at Baylor in 2020, if that was his first season and he didn't win, he had the same trajectory as his first 5 years, would he still be here? Just for the way that college athletics has changed in general. So definitely a year where Dave Aranda's got to prove that he can win at Baylor, go to a bowl game, and Gall is a part of that. So shows that, like you said, they want to win and win now. Morgan, outside of that, media days coming up. I know that's been a big topic of conversation for the Big 12. What is that going to look like? Give us more of an insight on Big 12 Media Day and what is in store.
I was so excited yesterday when I finally got to share the news, with the world from the Big 12 Conference Twitter account. It's something that, we've been working on behind the scenes, and we've been saying, we're optimistically planning to have this event in person, still taking advice from, our medical experts and medical team, but everything's trending in the right direction right now, which it's a sign of normalcy, which is great. I mean, to have media days back after, a year off, we did somewhat of a virtual format of a broadcast that I was a part of last year, but this is going to be my first media days, and we'll be out at AT&T Stadium. I know for media that have been a part of it in the past, it's always been a Monday, Tuesday. So I think the Wednesday, Thursday format might be a little bit different. And another thing that is going to be a difference that media will notice is in the past, typically, teams have brought 4, sometimes 5 players, but this year, just due to we're still planning on socially distancing and having those sorts of things in effect. So only 2 players, that's what we're requesting from programs, to bring a high-profile offensive and a high-profile defensive player. And, of course, the head coaches will be there as well. So it's something that, I'm really, really looking forward to, and excited to share, more details as they come about and as I learn them. But, definitely save the dates.
Will there be a Radio Row?
So that's something I can't disclose yet. We're still working through, just due to the, COVID environment and COVID year and adjustments. That's, been a question that you're not the first one to ask that, Drake, but I will share it as soon as we do have that information, on lock and official for everyone.
Well, Morgan, we've gotten this whole remote show thing down pat now. I think all the kinks are worked out, and we're ready to rock in the case that there is a Radio Row at AT&T Stadium. So fingers crossed on our end. But, I mean, everything put together, Morgan, the spring season kind of winding down, but still 4 Baylor squads in postseason play or with championship aspirations. I mean, last question for you. Does that just show really the commitment to athletics, commitment to excellence that Baylor has put together, not just in football and basketball, but really across the board?
Absolutely. That's such a great point. And I think that's, not just Baylor, but really the conference as a whole. Something that we really hang our hats on is the competition, the level of competition in all of the sports that the Big 12 sponsors, and Baylor has just been a great example of that really throughout this entire, past year, the 2020-2021 season. So yeah, I do think, it's a commitment to, what Mac Rhodes has done and the coaches he brings in and the high level of standard that he holds his programs to. And it's definitely has to be exciting to be a Baylor fan. I mean, gosh, all year long, you guys have had something to cheer about, something to look forward to. So I definitely think you make a great point there. And that's really, though, I would say the conference as a whole, that's something that we really pride ourselves on.
Well, Morgan, our Bear Games question of the day today. I can only imagine that you've never heard a Baylor athlete sing, but today's revolves around one of them singing the national anthem. Say we got a stadium of 100,000 people. I'm talking like Alabama LSU football game when it's number 1, number 2. And they have asked one random Baylor athlete from any team to sing the national anthem. While you have zero inside perspective on the singing abilities of any Baylor athlete, I'm sure, I'm going to give you complete freedom to throw out any name that exists on a Baylor roster to sing the national anthem.
Okay, the first thing that popped into my mind, just because I saw just how spunky and how much fun she was at the Big 12 basketball championship, was Queen Egbo. Just really, I guess if we're going with like current players, that'd be one that I could see taking the stage and just completely owning it. I guess let's go with Queen. I have no idea if she has a good voice or not, but maybe she has some uncovered hidden talent that we're about to just unveil.
Queen Egbo, lock it in. Hey, Morgan, thanks so much for joining the show today. As always, we love getting your perspective from the conference's point of view, and to know that Baylor has been such a vital part of the Big 12 success this athletic season is awesome. And like I said, always a pleasure.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, and looking forward to talking with you hopefully next week about some more good things, coming out of Baylor.
Hopefully so. Maybe a tennis national championship. Thanks again to Morgan Uber. That was Big 12 digital correspondent Morgan Uber joining the show today. It's the audio switchover. It's going to get me. We can come back. J.D. PicKell, Blonde Boys Power Hour, joins the show. We're going to talk a little bit about, they might pay athletes. Apparently, they might pay athletes. That's been a thing that we've seen a little bit more and more prevalent in the national media the last couple of days. We're going to hit that as a topic. We're going to cover men's tennis that is tipped off right now, first serve right now in Orlando. And you know what, JD, let's talk about some other stuff too. I don't know if you're out there in the void, but we'll talk about some sports. That's okay with this guy. I'm Drake Toll, got Jack McKenzie, Andrew Robertson. When we come back, JD PicKell joins it for the Blonde Boys Power Hour. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
Today's the day for Baylor men's tennis. Michael Woodson and his team meet TCU for the 4th time this season with the stakes higher than ever as a trip to the Final Four is on the line. First serve for the match is scheduled for 1 o'clock Central Time in Orlando, Florida. The Bears have gotten the best of the Frogs in the team's 2 outdoor matches this season after falling in the indoor, but anything can happen in Orlando. Live stat feed and video feed will be available online and can be found on the Baylor Tennis Twitter page. And Nikki Cullen has landed another hire for her staff, as Michael Mata will join the Lady Bears next season as the assistant AD for operations. He was previously the director of operations at Dartmouth College. Apart from the hire, Moon Urson and Trinity Oliver have entered the transfer portal, with Chrislyn Carr headed to Syracuse. Elsewhere in the nation, Duke has hired an athletic director in Nina King. She joined the department in September of 2008 and will become the first woman to serve as Duke's athletic director and the 3rd black woman to lead a Power 5 department. In men's basketball, Texas Tech has added transfer Sadar Calhoun from Florida State, and Oklahoma State has landed transfer Bryce Thompson from Kansas. And reports have surfaced that the SEC sent schools $23 million each to make up for financial losses because of COVID-19. The conference estimates each school will lose $45 million from athletics due to the pandemic. And the NCAA Division I Council plans to act on legislative proposals next month that would allow athletes to be paid to be sponsors, social media influencers, and product endorsers. This is a major step in the direction of college athletes being paid. Also, Baylor events are now at 100% capacity. Go out and watch a baseball game this weekend. I'm Jack McKenzie, in for Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. This has been Jack's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Alan Samuels is celebrating Jeep Freedom Days. It's an exciting time for the new Jeep Cherokee Latitude or Lux with up to $5,000 in values or 0% for 84 months. Wow, the new Jeep Cherokee Latitude Plus or Lux up to $5,000 in values or 0% for 84 months going on now. Jeep, a great SUV. Alan Samuels, the award-winning customer service Central Texas dealer. The best place to get your next Jeep SUV. Located 201 West Loop 340. Alan Samuels is your friend in the car business.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio. Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Sit down, Bob. I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll and J.D. PicKell for the Blonde Boys Power Hour.
Welcome back into the Penny Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'm Drake Toll alongside J.D. PicKell, Andrew Robertson, and Jack McKenzie. J.D., literally, the table bell is right there, man. All you got to do is just grab the table bell and ding it.
Listen, I don't dance unless I hear music, and I don't ring bells unless I want to. All right? That's just how I roll, bro. That's just how I roll.
You don't dance what?
I don't dance unless I hear music. I don't ring table bells unless I want to, all right? That's how I do it. That's how I do it.
The music's on. You're not even dancing now.
I do. Hey, I do what I want. As Lil Uzi Vert says, now I do what I want.
Now you do what you want.
Now I do what I want.
I do want to go ahead and give you a shout out there for the video on Jacob Gall. We played that on the show today, right there before Morgan Uber. Man, I'm glad to see you're a changed man.
Oh no, I never changed. I'm the same. I'm the same through and through. I am all of what I was when I had that original take that I don't like the transfer portal for the offensive lineman. This is like the unicorn get. I love it. I love it so much. But I'm still the same. I don't want to see them go after another guy. That's just how that's my take.
Have you had caffeine yet today?
No, I'm lied. Sorry, do I seem flat?
You seem revved up and ready to go. I love it.
Okay, good. Sorry. I was trying to get a dial tone. I actually looked at the table bell. I couldn't find it. So I was kind of acting tough, but I couldn't find the table bell. I tried to do like the dial tone to like see if it makes a sound.
Yeah.
It's not making a sound, but I was hoping that was going to be like the diet version of the table bell and try and add something to it. So also it would just feel wrong if I was doing your table bell bit, like that's Drake Toll. It's like you don't sit in the king's throne when he's away, you sit in your own throne.
I mean, the Bologna High School athletic director has departed for the weekend, and I am in his throne as we speak. So let's see here. I wonder if I could.
I'm pretty sure I get copyrighted.
Bump it up a little bit. How
I feel
about
like
that?
the Toll people would copyright me for taking over the table bell bit. But man, we missed you over here. I'm glad you're coming back soon.
The who people would copyright you?
The Toll people.
Well,
don't you got people?
Oh yeah. I'll send my people to talk to your people.
He's got people. You just get me calling people.
How about it? So big show today. We talked earlier in the show about kind of the floor and the ceiling for all the Baylor athletic programs right now and where they are, softball, baseball, men's tennis, and we also cover women's golf. JD, I want to get a couple of yours and what you've seen so far from some of these programs. Where are we maxing out, and where's the really the bottom of the barrel for these squads?
For which program specifically?
Give me, let's start with baseball. I want to hear your takes on baseball.
Gosh, for Baylor baseball, I'm not super privy to like, I guess, the barrel, if you will, for the bottom of the barrel for them. I think if you get hot at the right time, anything can happen. I think that they obviously have to find a way to fit into that top three to have a shot at seeding well for that tournament. So I think, if you're hot at the right time, who's to say that you can't make a deep run? But truthfully, I would say I think probably middle of the pack's about where you'll see them finish here in the NCAA tournament. What about you? Am I way off base? I have to fact check all my takes with you to make sure that I'm not just way out in left field here. Pardon my pun there.
Yeah, I like it. I think if Baylor does end up finishing the top three in the Big 12, which they won't, that won't happen. The Texas Tech has got Kansas this weekend, and Texas Tech is going to beat the brakes off of Kansas. That's just that's out of the question. But Baylor being in the top four, Baylor finishing the fourth spot, thanks to jumping Oklahoma State would be big. They need a sweep. It starts tonight with Oklahoma. You sweep Oklahoma, you make a bit of noise in the Big 12 tournament. I don't want Baylor to win it necessarily. Most national championship teams, if I remember correctly, don't usually win their conference tournaments. Like LSU, Paul Maneri, they put a lot of stock in the SEC baseball tournament, and maybe that's why they haven't won a national championship in a long time, because you're asking for more games in a part of the season where you don't really need to play more games. You've got plenty of experience to that point. Why wear yourselves out any more than you already have? Just call it. Go to the postseason. You're not going to bolster your resume that much more. So along with that, I want your take there too. I think Baylor baseball doesn't have to make a huge splash in the tournament. They can do a little bit to make their resume a little bit better, not land in the Fayetteville region. But if Baylor baseball goes to East Carolina, even Ruston, I have confidence in them going to Ruston. If they go to Tallahassee at Florida State, if they go to Ann Arbor in Michigan, I think Baylor baseball is walking away with a regional victory. The only problem with going to those regionals and winning it, now you're going to Knoxville. Now you're going to Nashville. Now you're going to Fayetteville. And in that event, I don't think Baylor's going to be able to hold Arkansas's jockstrap or Vanderbilt or Texas Tech, maybe. You never know. I guess you never know in a 3-game series.
They look pretty good against Tech.
They did. I think Baylor baseball is not impossible if they make some kind of wild, just crazy World Series run. We talked to analysts who said they're comparable to that Coastal Carolina team that won a national championship. I don't see that yet, but it's not impossible. Steve Rodriguez on the show, take it one game at a time. Those guys, maybe they'll pull something off.
Yeah, so how much help do you think they need to get an ideal seeding? Like you said, if they were to somehow win their tournament, it sounds like that would play in the long run in less of their favor, it sounds like. What's like the ideal scenario here for Baylor as they come down the stretch here? Let's say they do sweep. Like in a perfect world, they sweep, right? Where are they looking at, and what does that do for them in the long run with what this tournament holds?
If I am looking ideal scenario for Baylor baseball, I would say Baylor sweeps Oklahoma, Baylor goes to the Big 12 tournament. They win a couple of games. They lose out in the semifinals. I think that's the best case scenario for Baylor baseball right now, for them to stay healthy and stay a little bit rested going into postseason play. And then I think the best case scenario regional-wise, I know I keep saying on this show that Baylor's looking to be at East Carolina, Ole Miss, La Tech, Stanford, Florida State. Here's your problem. In the super regional in those series, you're playing either Arkansas, Texas, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Texas Tech. And all 5 of those games, I think Baylor loses a 3-game series in a super regional, all 5 of those teams. If I right now am talking dream scenario for Baylor, sweep Oklahoma, win a few games in the Big 12 tournament, go to the Notre Dame regional, if RPI comes out and Notre Dame gets the 8th seed nationally, as things sit for D1Baseball.com, Notre Dame's number 8 in the country. If Notre Dame hosts, Baylor goes to South Bend, wins the Notre Dame regional, probably plays Florida, Mississippi State, maybe East Carolina, Arizona in the super regional. I think all of those are very winnable for Baylor baseball. Best case scenario, Baylor goes to 8 seed Notre Dame. Think they got the tools to win that. What makes it better than them going to Florida State, Stanford, La Tech? It's better because your super regional matchup is much more reasonable than playing Arkansas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. So lock it in. Best case scenario, not ceiling, but best case, Baylor goes to South Bend, knocks off Notre Dame, goes then to maybe Florida, maybe East Carolina, maybe Oregon, Arizona, wins in a super regional, goes to the World Series.
Now, could we see them have a tougher draw like you mentioned? Let's say they do end up playing in Arkansas in the first round. Does that not front load your schedule in the tournament, and maybe you see something similar to what Baylor basketball did in March? You play Wisconsin, or I think it was North Carolina. One of those two is who you're going to draw. Is that a favorable matchup for Baylor if they were to end up playing, one of the tough teams first, like we saw Baylor with Wisconsin?
No. No. That is the least favorable scenario that possibly exists in the entire history of the world.
Wow, the whole world?
The world. There have been a lot of scenarios and terrible things that could have happened in this world. One of the worst would be Baylor drawing Arkansas and the Fayetteville Regional Round 1. Arkansas is going to the College World Series this year. There's no question about it.
Wow. They're not it's right up there with Hitler winning World War II?
Oh, wow.
I think we said the line's right there, and we said we're going to jump right on over it.
See,
we dropped the H word.
I thought it, I didn't say
bad.
it. I thought it, I didn't say it.
Yeah, we dropped the H word there. I'm going to go Baylor going to Arkansas. Arkansas is going to the World Series. Baylor's not going to be able to touch Arkansas in a regional scenario. Arkansas is just that good at Baum Stadium. You're going to have to get Arkansas to a neutral site in Omaha to be able to win against the University of Arkansas baseball program. Baylor's not going to do that. But Baylor's, huh?
I'm sort of playing out the scenario. If somehow it's just Baylor's year, it's Baylor's series, they beat Arkansas, is the rest of their schedule substantially easier?
No.
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 There you go.
Say dream crazy scenario and the Arkansas baseball team all gets the chicken pox and none of them can play, and there are 8 of them, Baylor wins the game by maybe a run or 2. And that's because Arkansas has to take an automatic out every time the 9th guy gets up to bat, and because their position players are pitching. Like, Arkansas is just that good this season. They're the Monstars of baseball. Baylor wins the regional in Fayetteville. This is a crazy. I don't even know why I'm saying this. In that case, they're probably going to play a Stanford, Florida State, Louisiana Tech in the super regional, and you can make the case that is going to be easier, and it would be easier than them if they're going to go to a Vanderbilt regional, or they're going to go to a regional where they play Vanderbilt in the supers, but that doesn't change your College World Series run, right? It may give you a slightly better chance to go to the College World Series, but it's not going to give you a guarantee. That's the problem with Baylor playing in the 16 seeds regional. I mean, yeah, it looks great on the front end, like it looks great when, hey, they're the worst team that's hosting a regional. You get to play there. Sweet. You go and you win. And then in the super regional, you're playing Arkansas. And that is just a terrible, terrible scenario. So best case scenario, land in that 8 or 9 range right there so you can play that 8 or 9 team in the super. Things don't get too much tougher. You're going you kind of plateau. You see about the same level of competition in round 1 that you would round 2. I'd much prefer that as opposed to having to play the Monstars round 1 and an okay team round 2, or an okay team round 1, Monstars round 2.
I mean, I'm looking at Arkansas right now. They're not unbeatable. They're still like 19-8 in the conference.
Yeah, no. They're unbeatable. They're unbeatable.
They've gotten
They're
beaten
the
8
SEC.
times.
No, well, they've won 9 straight SEC series. They've won 12 straight series on the season. They have not lost more than 1 game in a series yet this year, and you would have to take 2 from them, whether it be in a regional or a super regional. They have the best pitcher in the country in Kevin Kopps, and their battery is insane. Casey Opitz behind the dish is nuts, and their offense is wildly good. Baylor's good, but Arkansas is in the conversation of one of the better teams we've seen in the last decade. So I think you want to avoid Arkansas and Vanderbilt and probably Tennessee, especially in Knoxville. They're chippy as well. But, man, I'm telling you what, that Arkansas baseball is stupid right now.
That's going to be fun, though. So we don't want to draw Arkansas is what we've gathered here. Arkansas is a no-go. I'm out on Arkansas.
Has Baylor ever played Arkansas this season?
No.
Right. I mean, so we'll see.
Something new.
You never know. Baseball's a game. It's a game of runs.
In no scenario,
literally a game of runs.
Literally a game of runs.
No scenario should we be dreaming up Baylor playing against Arkansas
We're
or anyone.
peaking at the right
I wouldn't
time.
push that.
We want Arkansas, baby.
Baylor lost a series last weekend to a team that was ranked below them in the Big 12. Peaking at the right time.
We're peaking at the right time. We're about to sweep OU. We're going to win the Big 12 championship without dropping a run. And we're going to destroy Arkansas.
Let's put the house on it. Let's put the house on it.
Do we need to replay the Andy Thomas interview? I mean, I'm ready to run through a wall, but that'll get me going more.
Rock and roll.
I mean, like, this team of destiny. Some are saying.
I'm looking over their schedule here. They lost 16-1 to Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go. Let's ride the troops
I'm
here.
not worried at all.
Let's go, Bears.
Not concerned.
We're just razzing you. I'm razzing you. I'm razzing you here a little bit.
Didn't Baylor lose a series to UTRGV?
That was yesteryear. That was so long ago.
That was the first series.
I don't even remember that.
The team's really developed since then. They've really come together.
We're peaking at the right time.
You know what you're asking for? You're asking 2019 Baylor football to play LSU in the college football playoff.
Let's do it.
Did LSU play Baylor that season? No, never know what would have happened.
I know exactly what would have happened. It would have been a dismantling.
LSU is like one of the best teams ever. This team's lost 8 games.
Correct. LSU lost how many games?
It's baseball.
0 games.
You can lose 12 games and you will be it's as if, I know you're being sarcastic, you're razzing is the word that you would use, but it's like it's demeaning your knowledge about sports here. Like I honestly,
some people have been saying,
concerned for what you know about baseball.
I'm concerned about how much the Arkansas water is getting to Drake. I mean, he's in the state right now. He
drank the Kool-Aid. Yep.
Hey, I've never been demeaned before. I'm a nice guy all the time. All right.
So some people have been telling me that if Charlie Brewer stayed healthy, that we would have won the national championship, and we'll never know.
Whoa.
We'll never know that.
Hot take.
We'll never know.
People are the worst. Don't ever trust anything they say ever.
We'll never know.
All. I do. Hilarious. I know. And no, Baylor would not win a national championship. I asked this question. I want to ask it again because I don't remember if I asked you, JD, or if you've responded to this. But in our lifetime, will Baylor football win a national championship? Yes or no?
Let's see. That's like what, 60, 70 years?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 80.
Give it 80. Okay.
That's bold.
80 years?
Yeah, I'll give it 80.
With how well you can recruit in the state of Texas, I would say it is more unlikely that they wouldn't.
I mean, we were 1 game away from making the playoff, and the playoff's only going to expand. So
yeah, true.
And when you're in the playoff, anything can happen in the playoff.
And Nick Saban will retire in our lifetime.
No, not anything can happen in the playoff. That is incorrect.
Anything can happen in the playoff.
Anything can happen in the playoff.
Not in college football playoff.
Undefeated Patriots.
If they expand it,
the Giants. Yeah,
there's so little parity in college football playoff.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation itself. I'm actually with Drake on this one. I think 4 teams. Probably not a lot of parity. If you expand it, there's going to be a year or two where that 15 seed beats the 2 seed. And, I mean, depending on how many teams you go to.
I was thinking 8. Probably 8.
Yeah, if it's 8, it'll be interesting.
And if you can have a random team like Citadel challenge Alabama for 2 or 3 quarters, then I think Baylor can make it to the 4th.
Yeah. I mean,
we're putting a lot of stock in Baylor right now.
Yeah, but that's also a Week 8 Citadel team. Alabama's not getting gassed up for Week 8 Citadel.
That is
right.
Fair. That is very true.
I would buy more into the fact that you can recruit in the state of Texas. I think Baylor's a place that if you can recruit the right guys to, which I think is very much available with where Waco's located, with Dallas and Austin being right there. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think 80 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Put me down for a yes. Wait, what did you say to this, Drake? Are you buying or selling that?
I sell it. I don't think so.
Interesting. Why?
I'm going to sell it. We can take this film and cut it and keep it and just harbor it for the rest of our lives. And I really hope that I'm wrong, but I think Baylor, that 2014 team, is about as close as you're going to get to a national championship. Really? Well, it is the closest that Baylor has gotten to a national championship in its history, and I just don't. A lot of these programs that are winning championships today, look at the last 20 years, every team that's won a championship or vied for a championship has a championship pedigree or history. They have been at one point in time on that national scene. They've got that historic brand for the most part. Baylor doesn't have that. There is a certain amount to college football of building originally to recruit now. So like having that, being able to walk through the hall of trophies and just this historic, hey, we won championships here and there. And there are even teams that did that, like Nebraska, that are just bad now, But the fact that Baylor's never had that is going to hurt them. I don't think TCU, I don't think Baylor, I don't think Texas Tech, like in our lifetime, there's a conglomerate of Big 12 teams that will not win national championships.
I would raise you one better and say, look at Clemson. Clemson was non-existent before Dabo Swinney got there. I mean, were they decent? Yeah. Were they championship pedigree? Absolutely not.
They did have a championship from 81.
They were not the championship pedigree, though. There was the phrase Clemsoning.
The history's there.
It was absolutely, the word Clemsoning was a thing, as in you would get to a certain point in the season and choke. So maybe had they won championships, potentially, but the pedigree. Are you
sure that's a thing?
I'm 100% sure that's a thing. They're like the pedigree, like associating Clemson with like a blue blood right now is not so much a stretch as it would have been in like 2007. Like 2007, Clemson wasn't touching a national championship. And now we're associating them with like year in and year out, they're a mainstay in the playoffs. So I think
they already won a championship. That's what I think bars them from my argument. They'd won, right, but they had that championship history. You can take them to the hall and show them a national championship trophy. I don't see who's the next team that's going to win their first ever national championship. It might be a while because of the way that college football has built itself now with the national brands who have already won championships. It's going to be a while till a Northwestern, a TCU, a Baylor, a Purdue, those teams go up, win a national championship, a Wake Forest even. I just don't see that happening in the next 20 years especially. But then past that, unless there's conference realignment, it's going to take a favorable conference realignment that really challenges Baylor and they rise to the challenge for a Baylor football team to win a national championship.
I would say the thing about brands is brands change. Like a couple of years ago, 50 to 100 years ago, Army was like the brand. Now you look around, you're like, Army is probably good for the Commander. And yeah, you want to talk about history? Talk about history then. You want to talk about brands? Talk about brands. Yeah, Army, it probably has
like 70s and ahead. Not the. I don't want to talk about the 30s.
Okay, so that in myself is its point.
Army
40
won
years,
40 straight championships in the 40s. Granted, it was during World War II.
That's a 40-year span. We're not talking about 80 more years. Brands can change in 40 to 80 years, guys. Like that's a real thing. So I think it's the 80 years is such a long time, and Texas is so good in terms of high school football. It's not out of the question that you could recruit well and get the right kids in there. It just takes 1 year.
And also the 2014 Baylor team had the tools to set. If they would have made the playoff, all it takes is a couple bounces. You got a fumble here, you get an interception there. A big sack. Like if you get in the playoff, you can win the championship. That's a fact. Can't argue with that fact. Get in the playoff, you can win the championship.
Which is going to get easier.
No,
right, with the expansion of the playoff.
Exactly.
The expansion of the playoff is coming.
What stops?
The expansion's not coming.
No, it'll go to 18.
We'll get that conversation.
It's coming, and there's no debate about that. Actually, unfortunately,
they want more money.
I'm looking at like the 70s. You got Nebraska, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, USC, the teams at Oklahoma that are winning national championships. I mean, so little has changed in the landscape of college football in the last 40, 50 seasons. We are in the modern era of college football. So little has changed. You get your small blurbs in there, like in the 70s, Pitt won a championship, BYU. But outside of like those random little spotty schools that have won championships, it's mostly Kings.
Do you think Oregon's going to win a championship in the next 20 years? Because
who? Hold on. I didn't hear what you said. Oh, Oregon?
Because
I don't know.
They haven't been on the landscape before these past 20 years, and I think they're buying.
Man.
Here, let's talk about this. 80 years ago. So I'm saying 1940 is the year that I went and Googled. Who do you think was the national champion?
Army.
Say it again.
The national champion in the year 1940.
Alabama?
Mississippi State. No championship pedigree. I don't think they have a championship. 100% was.
Minnesota. 1940, Minnesota.
1940, your college football champion was Mississippi State.
There are a lot
according
of
to Google.
Minnesota.
There are a lot of split championships.
Okay, so Mississippi State had a claim to national title, and also Minnesota. That even furthers my point. Minnesota's not a blue blood. So
Minnesota has a claim to like at least 4 titles.
Right now,
80 years ago.
Yes, and you're saying 80 years in the future, right? So that's the argument we're having right now is 80 years, will they capture a championship? Minnesota's pretty much irrelevant to the landscape of college football right now as it pertains to the national title race. But in 80 years, it might be back up there.
Here's my argument with that. Here's my argument with that is that 80 years ago, 1940, the way the game has changed from 1940 to 2021, it has changed exponentially more than it will change from now to the year 2100. Here's why. Slinging Sammy Baugh was the quarterback in the 40s, right? On top of that, prior to that, like, I don't know, that's within a decade of the NCAA penalizing teams for throwing incomplete forward passes. The game will not change. The structure of the game, the rules of the game, the way it's played have changed so much since 1940. It's not even remotely the same game. Those guys didn't have face masks. In 80 years, it will not have developed more than it did between 1940 to 2020. I can guarantee you of that.
So that sorry, go ahead.
So that's why I think there's not going to be as much chance for some random team, a Baylor, to come up out of the ashes and do something wild the next 80 seasons.
Well, that in itself contradicts your point earlier that college football isn't changing with the brands. If you're saying the game changes so much, then the brands change along with it. If the rules were to shift to...
no.
That's just what you said. You said the brands are going to stay the same. They have stayed the same. And now you're saying the rules have changed so much. That's why these teams were good. The game's going to... Yes, so the rules have changed a lot. So you're saying the rules were, at that point in time, in some way, favoring Sammy Baugh and TCU. And TCU right now, according to you, is not going to be relevant in the next 80 years, according to the national title.
Championship in the next 80
years. Yes. So I'm lost as to the point here because rules and brands seem like they don't necessarily go hand in hand.
We're forgetting that Baylor and TCU were like 5-7, like 6 years ago. Who's to say that can't happen again within the next 10 years? I mean, we're in a spot like Texas where the high school recruits are so good.
I'll tell you.
What stops these guys from getting a diamond in the rough, like getting another RG3, putting together some good pieces around him and vying. Again, we might not win, but if you're getting to the playoff, you absolutely have the ability to. Like, I think someone else will break this barrier. I mean, Baylor basketball didn't really have the national pedigree, but look, Duke didn't make.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a good comparison. No national pedigree.
It's a terrible
Why?
comparison.
No, it's great.
Why?
It's about the coaches.
Basketball?
It's not about the brands. It's not about the rules. It's about the coaches.
A 64-team bracket in college basketball. Villanova can win a championship. You can't even compare the FBS and the college football playoff remotely to the NCAA March Madness tournament. There's not a comparison there.
I'm with you on that, Drake.
Baseball's the same way. Coastal Carolina won a championship. I mean, in men's basketball, UConn won a championship as some random double-digit seed. That just doesn't happen in football. Football's not like that. Football is so top-loaded, and that's not going to change. What's going to change football from being so top-loaded? The top 10 teams recruit exponentially better than anyone else, and who's going to stop that?
All it takes is one bad coach.
Yeah.
One successor to Nick Saban who just can't keep it going. Someone else swoops in for the one championship. They take that opportunity, and all of a sudden it goes. It's about the coaches. Look, that's the reason. Scott Drew's the reason why Baylor basketball is what it is now.
That rule came in to a sugar bowl.
Basketball and football.
Yeah, so I'm with you, Drake, in the sense that I think the 64-team playoff favors basketball and favors more parity in that sense. I would argue that I think Jack makes a really good point with head coaches kind of being what drives programs. Like Alabama before Nick Saban wasn't really that relevant. I mean, USC without Pete Carroll hasn't been nationally relevant like they were with him.
Baylor before Art Briles.
Baylor before Art Briles. Yeah, these are all good points. And so I think the fact that Nick Saban's not going to coach forever, Dabo Swinney's not going to coach forever. They both have different coaches in the next 80 years, I would assume, at some point in time, whether it's for the NFL or they retire, whatever it is. So I think head coaches, the fact that that's going to change, that really leaves the door open for some more parity. But I want to throw this at you. If it expands to, let's say, I think 16 is as far as we would be comfortable.
But it will be expanding.
I think it'll expand.
Absolutely will be expanding.
If it goes to 16 teams, Drake, does your opinion on that change, or what's your stance there?
If it goes to 16, I still college football will never see the parity of college basketball. So when number 2 Alabama in the Sweet 16 or the college football playoff of 16 teams, number 2 Alabama is playing in round 1 against number 15. We'll say it's Central Florida. Okay, UCF one of those years. That's pretty reasonable. Bama wins. Round 2, Bama's playing against number 2 seed to play the 7. So Bama's playing against like number 7. I don't know. Maybe at that point you get like an Oregon who's going to vie for that, but the way how dominant, it's so top-loaded in college football that year in and year out, there's a reason the BCS poll, the number 7 team never had a shot at the national championship. I can't remember a year where it's like, oh yeah, Alabama won the BCS national championship, but they probably would have lost the number 7 team. Sure, there's a lot to be decided between the lines, but I don't see a ton of upsets happening. I just don't.
Your perspective on football is so. Like, why even play the games? Like, it's like that things can happen in the game. You're basically saying Alabama's better than everyone else, so they're just going to win the title every year, and we shouldn't even play the games because, they're the best team. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a huge fan of the college football playoff. I think the college football playoff, to an extent, has been a bust, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Sure. And so I'm with you in the sense that I think the way that college football is structured right now, there is not a lot of parity. I think that the issue I have with kind of the conversation we're having is the assumption that these large brands like Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, the assumption that they're going to stay good for the rest of the 80 years. I mean, maybe they'll still be like in the top because they are a good brand. They'll still recruit. I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State's in the top 3 of the Big Ten for the next 80 years. That wouldn't surprise me. But to say that they're going to be the top dog, the alpha dog, the far and away, those 3 teams for the rest of the college football playoff, even if it does stay at 4 teams, I think that's more of a stretch because, like I said, Saban won't coach forever. And that's the reason why Bama is Bama.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think, yes, the big dogs, the brands will change, but I do think a lot of those big dogs and brands come with being a large public university, especially in states that are going to value that a lot. So your alumni pool is bigger, thus your money. At a lot of these schools, you're getting a lot more donations. So that's what kind of buries Vanderbilt, Baylor, TCU, Northwestern for me when it comes to Duke, when it comes to the conversation of winning football national championships, is because of disparity in money, funds, alumni, fan bases, facilities. The facilities at Baylor will never match the facilities of the top 10 federally funded state schools in the country when it comes to football. That is true. That is true.
It's probably fair.
That is true.
I'm on board with
and
that.
that is going to hurt Baylor from winning a national championship. Can they get close? Absolutely. But I don't think that the teams I list off, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Baylor, Duke, TCU, I keep most of those schools kind of in that same little realm. Maybe even to an extent, Stanford will win national championships. I don't think Art Briles would have ever won a national championship at Baylor. I will confidently say that. I don't think Matt Rule would have won a national championship at Baylor had he been here 10 years. Is it possible? Yes. But if I got to put all my eggs in one basket over the next 80 years, will it happen? I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I think Stanford's putting in less money than a Baylor in terms of their facilities, their program. Like at Stanford's similar to like some of those other academic institutions. Like you go there and you're not a football player, you're just a student. Like nobody, like Christian McCaffrey goes to the cafeteria and he's just hanging out. Like there are articles written about how he would go around campus, and again, there's other things probably playing to his favor. The fact that he probably didn't look like a Division I college football player all the time on campus. He doesn't fit that prototypical mold. But all that's to say, I mean, Stanford, if they're going to be in the national title conversation, which I think that's a very fair point to say, they're probably in the next 80 years in the running, and maybe they're more realistic of a shot than Baylor just based on their history. But Stanford's not putting the money that Baylor's putting in. I'm sort of guessing here, but I would assume Stanford doesn't have the facilities that Baylor has.
Yeah, they do. They do. I think Stanford's probably not where you want to hang a hat there on that argument because of the money they do put into athletics is pretty astronomical. I'm looking last year, their budget for their athletic program was $190 million. Stanford, for some stupid reason, especially their smaller sports, they invest a lot of money. They put a lot of money into their programs. And so I would say Stanford probably spends more money than Baylor just because they win the Capital One Cup almost every year because they put a lot of money, especially into smaller sports, and really value that at Stanford. So I also don't think in the next 80 years that they'll win a national championship. There's little to no football history there when it comes to, and I'm trying to find I got the highest grossing football programs, but I'm trying to find who spends the most.
Stanford's got some. Also, I would say in terms of facilities, they're on par with Baylor. I've seen Stanford's facilities. I was more speaking to the budget, so maybe they are putting more in, like, across the athletic budget, but facilities are on par, especially with the new football complex Baylor's building. Like, they're going to be on par with Stanford. Now, Stanford has the whole sell of, like, hey, come to Stanford, we're Stanford, and that's really fair. But, I mean, in terms of what they're putting into the program, I think it's probably about on par. Maybe I'm guessing here, but it's about on par. I would wager that you probably pay, well, it's David Shaw, he's been there longer. I would wager the starting salary for the coach at Stanford and the coach at Baylor is probably pretty similar. I mean, the Pac-12 pays their coaches the least across Power 5 conferences.
Yeah, it's all, a lot of that's kind of depending on who it is, coaching wise. But yeah, I'm trying to find it right now, and I can't. I'm struggling to pull up the state. You know, the problem. What the problem is that Baylor and Stanford are private, so they don't have to. They don't have to release all their statements. So it's going to be tough to find an actual a legitimate figure on where Stanford and Baylor are. But yeah, I mean that's my take. I think over the next 80 years, I don't have that kind of group of 6 or 7 teams winning a national championship in football. I just don't see it happening. And again, that's the question of, will it happen? It very well could. It very well could. But if I had to put all my eggs in one basket, all my money on one, yes or no, I'm probably going to go with the no card. That it's just not going to happen.
Would you side with a group of 5 school potentially making a run?
No, there's no chance.
If they expand to 16,
look at maybe. I still don't think they're going to expand to 16. I think they will expand to 8. That seems more. And maybe in 80 years they'll expand to 16.
12 is probably the biggest they'll go. Model it after the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, but I think
the old NFL playoffs.
I think 8 is probably where I imagine it will be in the next 5 years. I think it's going to be pretty quick because they saw so much success. Just the ratings in those games are so high, and they want to make money. They want the best teams to play against each other, and people are going to tune in because it's the best teams playing against each other. It's the playoffs. I mean, you look back at UCF when they were number 7 and they claimed a national championship or whatever.
Yeah,
undefeated. People would have tuned in to UCF versus Alabama, undoubtedly. If there was an 8-game playoff, UCF would have made it. And to your point about a group of 5 school, getting a national championship, I think that's currently impossible with the playoff structure that we're using.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there. I just wanted to kind of throw a grenade in there and see if there was anyone that disagreed. But yeah, we're all in unison there. That's not happening.
I don't, and we'll get to the conversation again on another day about playoff expansion, but I think 12 is decently reasonable. 8 is the worst thing that could happen. It is worse than a 14 playoff for college football.
Why would 8 be worse than 12?
Interesting.
8 would be a travesty. Because the problem with the college football playoff, and we've already, again, we'll get into this really in depth on another day. The problem with the college football playoff right now, no one cares about bowl games. Bowl games are losing astronomical amounts of revenue right now because what people care about, what fans care about, what teams care about is going to the college football playoff. It is college football playoff or bust, because once you play in a bowl game, yeah, I care about it, but I mean, who gives outside of kicks and giggles? It's like, oh yeah, we won the Rose Bowl. That's great, and there's a lot of pageantry there, but it's not like it used to be. With the college football playoff, it's we won the Rose Bowl, but we didn't even make the college football playoff. That is the end goal, the big goal in college football is to make the playoff. If you expand it to 8, then you make it to where bowl games mean even less. You take away the luster of a bowl game because now there are more teams that smell blood in the water. They're sniffing the playoffs, and then you're the number 9 team in the country. You go to the Cotton Bowl, and it's like, yeah, we're in the Cotton Bowl. What the crap are we playing for? The Cotton Bowl trophy. Sweet.
So, I love
athletes care more about going to the playoffs. Well, you do, but you know who doesn't? Other college football fans. And that's why bowl revenue and bowl attendance is at record lows right now because the college football playoff exists. Facts don't care. That's facts.
So why is 12 better than if the argument is to expand the playoff is a bad thing in that sense? Like 8 is too many. Like why is 12 the better option there? Walk me through that.
I think 8 you're sniffing blood in the water. And so
in what
12
sense?
8 is like if you're in the number 9, number 10 team in the country, well, heck, the number 8 team made it. And I know you're going to make the same argument. You can make the same argument about 13. I think 12 is a good middleman there. 8 is just still too few. Going to 12 gives you more an opportunity. Okay, these top 12 teams can be contenders. 13 pass, look on the outside in. It's like, oh, yeah, that sucks. But 12 is a pretty solid number. I like 16 a lot. The reason I like 16 is because, say you have a 12, you'll have to do a play-in game. That puts somebody at a very stark disadvantage going into games. So say the bottom 8 teams then, the 5 through 12 would you play in games for who plays into the top 4. So now you get Alabama, and Alabama is going to face off against Florida State, except Florida State played a football game last weekend, and Alabama had a bye week. So now you're giving you're even more of a disadvantage. That's why I like 16 playing an 8 matchup straight up round 1. I think 16 is probably the perfect number for me. 24 in the FCS works really, really well. But again, the college football playoff has killed bowl games. It has absolutely murdered bowl games. And you can look at attendance numbers, ticket sales, revenue. Bowl games are dead because of the college football playoff.
But you're saying 8 is expanding it too much, but you want to go to 16?
That makes no sense.
No. Not 8. Not that 8 is too much. 8 is not enough. 8 is not enough. So if you're going to expand it to 8, just go to 12. Skip the whole 8 deal. We don't need to do this in a progression. The NCAA is going to lose revenue with an 18 playoff. Like, lose revenue? It's free revenue in a playoff. You lose revenue when bowl games stop making money. Bowl games are not making money right now like they were. Bowl games are losing a lot of money, and it's because of the college football playoff. So while, yes, your 8 games bring in a lot of revenue.
Because of the playoff. I think that there's a move towards players with draft prospects sitting out of the bowl game no matter what it is. If it's not the playoff, it doesn't matter how big the playoff is.
And that's because
there's a playoff.
Yeah. At the root, it's because of the playoff.
I don't think it's because of the playoff. I think that even if it was just we had the major bowl games still, and those were the best games of the year, players would still sit out the other bowls. So if the playoff didn't exist, it's just shifting the yard markers. It's just saying, no, we're going to set out these games instead, and these games don't mean anything. Like, you put whatever you want in there.
Yeah, I think we need to also take into account the fact that college football makes a lot during the regular season because the regular season matters so much. I mean, you have playoff games the first 2 weeks of the season because Oregon, Ohio State, perfect example. They're playing a playoff game week 1 or 2. I forget which one it is. Week 1 or 2 of the season. And so if it goes to 8 to 16 teams, I mean, I don't know what you're doing with 8. Maybe it's closer. But if you go to 16, it's like, cool, they're playing. I'll watch that game, but it doesn't matter nearly as much. It's like, I don't care about that game then.
16 is too many to me. 8 makes a lot of sense because you get all 5 of the Power 5 champions. You get, SEC will probably send 2 or 3 because they'll have 2 or 3 great ones. You get a group of 5 school in there. That seems like the perfect number. 16 almost seems like too inclusive. Also, another point with the bowl games, like, if your school makes a bowl game, your school generates revenue. Like, if you don't make a bowl game, you don't get that extra revenue into next season. So there's incentive for the program to make the bowl game so they can spend more money on their football program and continuously get better through that. So bowl games, I think, still have a ton of importance, and I think the players love playing in bowl. I mean, bowl games are great. When bowl game season starts, people watch every bowl game.
I see what you're saying, though, Drake, that like the suits are losing money. Like the TV deals. I totally see that. And I think that's something that like is just an unfortunate nature of the beats. But I do think probably the schools still benefit financially from that. But the people calling the shots, people behind the cameras, the people that wear the nice suits and make a lot more money than me, they're the ones losing money. So I see why it will happen. I see why it has to happen.
The schools are losing money.
I don't.
The schools are losing money too. I mean, they're not getting the money, the revenue they would have gotten from a Rose Bowl 10 years ago today. Oh no, yeah. I mean, you factor in inflation, but still, the money is not there like it was in bowl games as a direct result of the college football playoff. And I know A-Rob was like, oh, players love playing in bowl games. I mean, Baylor could have gone to a bowl game this last year and didn't.
COVID year. I think that's different. But I see what you're saying.
That happens a lot. That happens every year. There's a 5-7 team gets invited to a bowl in Nebraska, and they decline the bowl invite.
No,
it's not like players. No. It does. Oh, 100%.
We were also 2-7. We were also a bad team that was like.
So you just give up? But players love playing in bowls. So why would you give up?
Well, in a COVID year, they haven't seen their families in like 5 months.
We also lost 40. We also
lost
100%
true. That's 100%
That is not true. There was not a bubble. They could see their families.
Skylar Wetzel came on here and said, I haven't lived a normal life in 5 months because of my team. We don't want to go play in a bowl game. We don't want to do this any longer. We're also not good. We're beat up.
They still saw their families. They went to class.
The Oklahoma State game, do you not remember? We had so much COVID that we had like half our team sit out and we lost 45-3. That team is not going to a bowl game. That's just embarrassing.
But the players love playing in bowl games.
They would if they're healthy.
Majority of guys that aren't sitting out because of the NFL enjoy a bowl game.
Absolutely.
It's fun. It's an exclamation mark to your season.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to hoist a trophy.
But it's disappointing that you didn't make the playoff, and that's what's hurting college football.
There's also teams that go into the season that aren't going to make the playoff.
And before the playoff
those
existed,
bowl games probably lose money.
Before the playoff existed, it was disappointing that we didn't make the Cotton Bowl. It was disappointing we didn't make the Rose Bowl. Like, It's just a different name for it. The biggest games are still the biggest games.
How many teams are disappointed they didn't make the playoff? Like 3? Every other team never even expected to make the playoff in the first place.
I mean, the disappointment of not making the playoff and going to the difference in a Rose Bowl and a playoff game is so dramatic.
Yeah, right now, because they're different things.
Yeah, one is exponentially worse than the other.
I see what you're saying because NFL guys sit it out. But if you're, the second string wide receiver, you're like, sick. We're going to the bowl. Like we're going to the Rose Bowl. I have always wanted to be in the Rose Bowl.
Matter? Why are we focusing in on the second string wide receiver caring about a bowl game? It's losing money. I don't care what the second string wide receiver thinks when college football playoff is destroying bowl games.
Because the conversation is, do players enjoy bowl games? 99% of them do.
Yeah.
1% is going to the NFL and is like, hey, I can make millions. I'm going to sit out this game. And it's like, as you're a fan, you're like, that sucks. I want to watch you play your last college game. You should want to play in that as a competitor. But 99% of the guys are like, sick. We're going to the Rose Bowl. This is going to be awesome. Remember it for the rest of my life.
That just doesn't really matter anymore. Bowl games just don't really matter anymore.
I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying, but I think players do enjoy it. The fact of the matter is they're going to find a way to expand the playoff to get more money, and so the bowl games do matter more because I think that's very much a valid point. But the players still enjoy the games. I think the majority of fans enjoy being able to go watch their team play in the postseason.
End of the day,
but they
more
don't,
playoff games
means
more games that matter. That's what you're saying. You're saying we're losing games that matter because the playoff exists. Well, if the playoff expands, then we have more games that matter, just with a different name.
Right. So expand the playoff.
Yeah. Didn't you say you didn't want the playoff expanded?
I would either like to go to 2 or to 12 or 16. I said I don't like 8.
2 as in just a BCS system again, kind of?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Would I prefer that? No, but I would prefer 2 over 8. I think 8 is just not. 8 is a middleman. It's the purgatory of college football playoff scenarios that buries bowl games. There is no bowl game that matters if there are 8 teams that make a college football playoff. Why would you care about a bowl at that point aside from kicks and giggles? Yeah, it's fun. Team fraternity bonding.
The 2 extra weeks of practice to develop your young players for one to try and make the playoff the next year.
I'll flip this and say if it does go to
2
16,
extra weeks is not going to be a difference in a playoff trip.
If it goes,
that's the coaches, man.
If it goes to 16, if it goes to 16 teams, then does the regular season matter as much? Does Oklahoma, Texas matter as much in terms of seeding? It's okay, there's a difference between a 1 seed and maybe a 4 seed depending on what Oklahoma's going to do.
16 is way too much.
I feel like that's too much.
It's way too much.
What do you think? Drake, do you think that waters down the regular season?
FCS does 24. The FCS does 24.
Right, but they don't have as much in the regular season as the FBS does. Nobody's tuning on.
No one watches the FCS, yeah.
Right.
Okay, why does that change the amount of playoff teams?
No, because we're saying if the conversation is it's losing money and people don't care about the games, I think that just shifts it to games that you care about less during the regular season, which do produce quite a bit of revenue from a TV standpoint. Do you see that being potentially an issue, or what are your thoughts there?
I think regular season games become just as big, especially for teams that are, this team wants to be a top 4 seed in the playoff. This team wants to be a top 3. And I think that may be the benefit of 12, too, is being a top 4 seed gives you that bye. Although I do think that's just going to hurt the chance of there ever being an upset because, then Penn State's playing a whole game before they play Alabama. But no, I think 16. I don't think 16 is too many. I don't think 24 is too. I think 24 suits the FCS well. I don't think 24 would suit FBS well. But I don't think the regular season would be dead with a 16-team playoff. There's still so much on the line in the regular season just to make a playoff because 2 losses can bury you. 2 regular season losses can bury you. When you don't play for conference championship, you finish 10-2 and you're Michigan and, another team that say 2 group of 5 teams make it in and they bump you if you're Michigan. Well, then that sucks for you. Go home. So regular season games will still matter.
I'm looking at the final top 25 to see what their records were.
Honestly, Drake has a point there because if you go to 16, then the threshold goes to 2 losses, and that could almost make more regular season games matter in that once you have 1 loss, how much does it really matter for the rest of the season until you're playing someone who's undefeated?
Well, you look at Clemson a year ago. If they lost 1 game, they're out of the playoff. And that's why it's okay, every single game matters. That's why it matters when Syracuse is going to upset Clemson. That's why we all flip it on and say, wow, Syracuse is up at half against Clemson. Let's watch that game.
Might be a bad example. Didn't Notre Dame beat Clemson and then Clemson still got
what was it, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah. Nice.
2-3 years ago. I'm not talking about this last year. I'm talking about 2-3 years ago when Syracuse. Because Syracuse gives Clemson fits year in and year out. And if Syracuse beats Clemson, we don't care. Yes, 100%.
Syracuse already did beat Clemson.
Yes, and they were up on them. I think it was a year or two ago. Maybe it was this past season they were up on them.
Syracuse beat Clemson, and Clemson still made the playoff 3 years ago.
Right, but I'm saying
beat Clemson.
Right, because they had a harder non-conference.
That's their only loss.
They had a harder non-conference. If you look at this past season,
Right.
Syracuse up on Clemson, you're like, holy cow. Syracuse could end their entire playoff hopes because a one-loss Clemson's not getting in. But if Syracuse beats Clemson and you're like, okay, well, there's 16
Clemson
slots.
did get in, though.
You're not hearing what I'm saying. The non-conference. Last year, if Clemson had lost to Syracuse, they would not have made the playoffs.
Same conference. They're in the same conference.
That's not what I'm saying. No, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying.
What are you saying about non-conference?
Clemson's non-conference. Clemson's non-conconference was garbage, right? They played Syracuse.
Notre Dame. They played
Notre Dame.
We're not talking
Notre
about
Dame was
this
in the
season.
ACC last season.
We're talking about strictly, I think it was 2 years ago. Syracuse and Clemson are going back and forth. I think it was Trevor Lawrence gets hurt after Kelly Bryant transferred, so you're down to your third-string quarterback. Clemson, if they lose that game, are out of the playoff, right? Like, if they lose that game, they're out of the playoff, and that was the whole conversation was, hey, we got to play a perfect season. That's 100% true.
That necessarily.
That's 100%.
No.
Dabo Swinney even came out and said, hey, we know we got to play perfect because if we lose one game, we're out. That's what Dabo Swinney, that's from the horse's mouth. So the fact of the matter is, if Syracuse were to beat Clemson in that game, let's say they don't pull off the late game heroics, then they're out of the playoff. Now, flip the script to 16 teams. You're not even flipping over. You're like, they got 2 losses to play with. Clemson's not losing 2 games this whole season. You can pencil in probably like 5 to 6 teams already in the preseason. Like, yeah, you're not going to lose probably more than 2 games.
That's why I think.
Okay, you know, the problem with that argument, though, is that if Clemson would have lost to Syracuse, the rest of their season doesn't matter. But now, when you make it to where you have a 2-loss threshold, your season does matter. Jack made that point. It's a great point. Jack's got a great point that Clemson loses week 3 to Syracuse. Well, your season's done. You're not going to the playoff. Well, now at the 2-loss threshold, more teams make it. Now you generate the fact that they care the rest of the way.
It's not going to be 2 losses, though. It's going to be more than 2 losses. Florida finished 8-4, and they were the 13th ranked team in the country. So I don't want to see a team with 4 losses playing for the national title in a national championship tournament.
You have to do 8. You have to secure that whoever wins the Big 12, SEC, Big 10, all the Power 5 get an automatic bid, no matter, whatever, because they won their respective conference. Usually, and then, like, the precedent would then be you take, then you go off whatever the college playoff board or whatever, and they always have their horrible rankings. But that they decide the next 3, whether that be a group of 5 team, whether that be 3 more SEC teams, that's basically their call. But if you give all that priority, then that makes the Big 12 championship that much more important. Because there's been years, OU just played Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. Didn't matter who won that game, really, because no one was going to make it. So that gives a lot more power to the Pac-12, power to the Big 12. People are going to tune in for those big games. I think that's important.
Iowa State 9-3.
Bowl games, though.
Iowa State
bowl games.
I think bowl games are probably dying out anyway.
But bowl games generate revenue. Any college wants to make a bowl.
They do not.
More than not making a bowl game.
You
want to make a bowl game, so you make more money.
Clearly there's an issue with bowl games right now. I think it's a good place to get in a quick Baylor men's tennis score update and then possibly close us off for the day.
The take 3?
That is true.
Might not have time for the take 3.
Yeah. Take 3 tomorrow? You want to do it along with the 2-minute drill?
We'll do take 3 tomorrow. Love it.
Yeah, we'll do it on top of the... I'm sorry about that.
We'll do it live. No, we're chilling. We're chilling. We got into it. I love it.
Men's tennis just won a huge doubles point. So they went to tiebreaker on the third court. Baylor won it really, really close. They dropped the first, dropped the second, tied 5-5 in the tiebreaker, and Baylor now has a doubles point, up 1-0 on TCU. That's huge, not just for the point, but for momentum as well. Baylor men's tennis up 1-0. Go to Baylor Tennis on Twitter to follow along. Awesome celebrity birthdays. Jaden Siwa, brother of JoJo Siwa.
Ooh. I don't know who that is.
I don't know. 11?
I'll give him 47.
Well, I'm going to go 20.
21. Nice job, A-Rob.
Nice.
We got Rachel Platten. Rachel Platten, the pop singer. She sings something really good.
45.
Let's give her, if she's pop, I'll say she's like 22.
She's 40, oddly enough. That makes 0 sense
there you go,
to
Rach.
me.
Interesting.
Cher. How old's Cher?
60.
She's 75. Cher's
75.
Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes.
He's getting older. Let's say he's 50. No, I was 61.
I was going to go 55.
57.
Okay. He is 49. Rachel Platten sings "This Is My Fight" song. That was her.
Okay.
We've got, man, there's just not a lot of. Oh, dang it, you guys. Man, we really ran that conversation all the way into the show. All right, well, how about it? I'm Drake Toll and J.D. PicKell, Andrew Roberts, Jack McKenzie. We'll come back tomorrow at 11 o'clock to do it all over again. Also, Doug the Pug is 9 today. Doug the Pug is 9.
Hey, you go, Doug. Happy birthday, Doug.
Everybody. Doug. Hey, we'll come back tomorrow. See you guys at 11 o'clock. Thanks for tagging along today. And hopefully we'll do it all again after Baylor men's tennis wins. This has been Up Tempo.